Hey everybody, welcome to episode 81 of Powerbombshells. I am Sam, that is Mel. We are just two broads talking about wrestling, and we're not your typical broads talking about your typical wrestling. And sorry we're a few minutes late. Mercury be retrograding and caused Mel's internet to drop out right before we were supposed to go live.
Right before, I'm like, are you serious? Am I gonna have to do all this on my phone? I cannot.
I thought I was gonna have to wing this solo, and I was like, no, not today of all days. Like, I can't be in here doing this by myself.
No, and I have like all.
I don't have a
that
hat.
we need. No, it was making me mad. I was like, I will try and do all of the stuff I normally do on my phone and not my computer. I'm like, I'm sure that'll be totally easy and fine.
That would have been quite the episode if we had to work out with you on the phone or me doing it by myself. But thankfully, her internet's back up. Hopefully,
wrestling talk.
Congratulations
on an awesome show.
Hopefully,
tonight.
we have appeased.
Don't do that. Okay, so I know how to do it when we do it. Okay.
Hopefully, we've appeased the technical lords, and they'll let Mel's internet stay throughout the show.
Happening.
Okay, but we are here. Thank you for being patient with us.
Thank you.
So
we appreciate it.
But we're here. Fingers crossed, toes crossed that everybody's internet stays the way it was. I know mine was last week. I was watching when I was trying to clip stuff. I noticed my screen kept freezing a little bit, and so I apparently was dropping internet a little bit and I don't know why. So. So bear with us. Hopefully we'll, because we, as we say all the time on this show, we're 81 episodes in now and extremely professional. Clearly,
clearly,
clearly we know what we're doing.
We are the timekeepers.
We are the timekeepers.
We'll keep whatever time we choose.
See, there we go.
We'll make the time to keep.
Daza said he guessed your hat today was a Viking helmet. Might have been appropriate.
Oh,
well, you've got. Well, go ahead.
Bob's freaking out right now. He's like, "Yeah, they don't have helmets exactly. They wore like Bob's a total Viking nerd, but I hear what you're saying, the barbarian with horns thing, but I would never wear that here because I would actually probably get kicked out of my house because there's like no evidence in the history of Vikings that they ever wore horns or helms with horns. They wore like, speaking of hats though, my hat is that I randomly said the other day when I found this hat that it reminded me of, I was like, I feel like I'm going to a Jimmy Buffett concert. And then like a few days later, I was like, oh, so I wore this kind of like
perfect timing.
I mean, maybe I was like, all right, it's like, I'm not like some great fan or anything, but there's a lot of times in my life where the music was in the background where it was like, so, and it's been a weird time for stretch.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't realize I've been following this Twitter account for years called Save the Manatees because manatees have been like my second favorite animal since I was like 10. Aww. And so I followed this account forever, and I didn't realize until yesterday when they tweeted he was the co-founder of him and the Florida governor at the time created it, and they do a lot of work to obviously to protect manatees, to tell you, like, obviously remind you, like, don't touch them, don't get in the water. If you're in a boat in shallow water, be mindful of them and that type of thing. And then you can adopt one where you can pay money to help.
Essentially, you're just funding them, taking care of them.
Right. And so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I had no clue that he was behind it until I saw that account yesterday. And I was like, oh, that's really awesome. We have Jim Valley here who says he's a longtime listener, first time poster. So welcome. Thank you for posting.
Jim, chicken bacon.
Jim says that you're because Daza told him that he had to guess the hat because that's what we do here. And so he said that he's going to guess it's a sweet hat, which obviously correct. And Daza said it's a very Rat Pack hat.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Cool. I like that too. I'm down with that.
There you go.
I told Sam this earlier in the week. I went on a hat excursion. I walked up to my local dollar store and not one single hat in the dollar store. The dollar store, I repeat, and it's like Halloween season, did not have a single hat. Not one, not anything. Not like they had
somebody must
put
have come
together party hats like the ones for the packet that we got for our birthday party.
Right.
I went to CVS. They had like all kinds of hats. All right. I thought I had to see. I got some fun ones for you guys coming up.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
I told them Mel has to live the gimmick, and so she's purchasing hats to make
sure
it
that cracks me up too now
you.
Because it's like, so one of the most common things we get asked at Ren Fair is in our garb is aren't you hot? And we've come up with very clever ways to answer.
Good.
Obviously, after many years of even like I was talking to like a social worker once, and that was like, she was like, do you guys get hot when you're wearing that stuff? I'm like, everyone, really? So now with the hats, it's like, oh, you must really like hats.
Yes, of course. Obviously. It's just a bit I do on my podcast every week.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into that. So what I said was,
I understand.
What I actually came up with was, I do buy a lot of hats, but I share them with friends, and it makes them happy too.
There you go. Perfect answer.
So it's kind of fun for everyone. And she was like, oh, that's great. So your obsession has a purpose.
Yes.
Like,
Nikki said your hat kind of reminds her of Bray's hat in the early days, not the straw, but yeah.
I heard that too this week. Someone was sharing a picture like that, and I went, oh, that looks just like this hat that I was planning on wearing all week. Obviously. So.
That's good.
The hat, I mean, obviously the hat is way more fun than some of the things that we have to tackle.
Yes, but before we get to that, we are going to remind you that we have a Patreon, and that there's two tiers. There's a $5 tier and a $10 tier, and then obviously you can subscribe for an entire year. And if you do that, then I believe it's a 10% discount. The audio for our show, for now, we still have the audio up on our free feed, but eventually that will be going away, and our audio will only be on the $10 tier. There's some other good stuff on the $10 tier. Garrett's show is over there. I think there's some other cool stuff. And then also there will be, at some point, there's going to be some Fight Game Media gear of some sort coming out. I believe a t-shirt of some sort, or something like that. They're figuring out the details, but that'll be a cool thing that they have. So definitely make sure that you sign up for the Patreon, which is right there at the bottom of our screen. If you're listening on audio, that's patreon.com/Fight Game Media. And also, if you join the $10 tier, I think it's both tiers, you automatically get an invite into the Discord as well. I am not yet a part of the Discord, but
our very special, amazing, super secret Discord that has so many scoops you won't need.
You should start.
I don't know.
You should start.
You
should start giving your hints away of what hat you're gonna wear. Like, start giving, and you're in the Discord. You can be like, "Here's 3 guesses about my hat this week."
No, but I did consider actually posting, like, either on the $10 tier, putting it on the feed, like a picture for the $10 tier people or something like that, because then we can keep a record of it, but we're not just giving it away, because
there you go.
Because people have to make an effort right now to go, actually, if they're listening on audio, have to make an effort to go at least see, like, at least hover.
There, yeah.
So,
yeah. There's an idea.
Whereas if you subscribe, you could, like, get a great picture. I don't mind making a nerd of myself. My selfies are always nerdy because I suck at taking selfies, so I lean into sucking at it. This is my whole, like, I don't care, and selfies are kind of not my thing anyway. So I have a good friend, and we go out of our way to, like, when we have funny things going on, like, make the worst selfies possible and send them to each other. And
perfect.
And they are awesome. They're some of the best pictures I have of my friends. So
I bet so. You got to get creative. Help. You can be creative with it and stuff like that. So that's always fun.
But it is worthwhile, because then you get to see cool things, like you get to watch James, and you can watch James and Kevin anytime on video on the $10 tier, that stuff, things like that. So
yeah.
And then, there might be more, because people are, like, writing things and doing all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah. And I just want to give a big shout out to our Discord channel, the Powerbombshells Discord channel. Like, thank you guys for the this week, very stimulating conversation. We are going to be talking about stuff that will play into the conversations that were had in the Discord channel, and that were great conversations. And I appreciate so much that you guys are in there and talking about that stuff. And I try to be very conscious and be mindful and make sure that I'm in there. And I do read what you guys are posting in there. Even if I'm not posting in there, I am reading what you guys are posting, and I am trying to be mindful.
And I appreciate that, because I am not involved in Discord, so I appreciate that Mel is there to do that, and that you guys are active in there and stuff like that.
Discord's my jam, girl. We appreciate that. All right, I love my Discord. I've been doing Discord since forever, so it's easy for me, and I enjoy it. And we have such great followers and listeners that it's a good conversation.
Yeah. And also, we want to thank you if you're a subscriber to the Fight Game Media YouTube. We are, obviously we've been live streaming here for months now at the same time, except for last week when we did a special early one, but we're here every Sunday at 1:00. We know football season is coming.
You can do like
I do, put the game on in the background. I usually have baseball on in the background if the games are on. So
Powerbombshells does not fear the NFL.
We do not fear the NFL. And you can also, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll see, speaking of Strong Style, is here every week. Last night, The Wrap did a recap for Payback. They did a live stream. Today, there will be a live stream following All Out. So just make sure that you're subscribed, because we're trying to do a lot of live streaming here and a lot of live content. We have a bunch of really great people over here doing some cool stuff, so we want you to see that too and to support them. And so subscribing and of course, I know it's cliche to like and share and comment and all that good stuff, but it really does help, because the algorithm is a real thing. So it definitely helps us out, and so we appreciate any of that you do, and we appreciate you if you're here every week or you're here whenever you can get here. We appreciate that too. And if you're listening on audio, we appreciate you, even though we tease you about missing all of Mel's hats. We appreciate you listening too.
It's a choice. It's a choice. I just asked it. How about this though? If you get really curious and you do happen to pop over and hover over the video, just hit subscribe.
Yeah, there you go. And we are on Instagram and Twitter. I will never call it X. It is Twitter.
You know what? I will only call it
at Powerbombshells.
I will only call it X in the context of I liked the person who brought up the fact that XI makes an SH sound in Cantonese, Chinese, and other Far East languages. So it would be jitter or shitter, which is fine. And and sometimes it feels like that. But I mean, be real, to be real, it is. I mean, everything still says Twitter on their branding. Basically, they've tried to not, but it's whatever. And the point of the matter is that for now, it still is a way to engage with you guys that is useful. And so we're going to use every media outlet we possibly can.
And and Mel has been active on using Threads.
I've been trying to use. I have
Threads.
Not. I've been up and down on the Threads.
Involved in that yet, but I appreciate Mel trying to keep us over there.
But I'm doing the thing. Sam's doing the thing, but Sam has way more shoot work than I do. Her IRL job is jobs get life. We all know how it goes.
Yeah,
so
we do.
And then they keep putting back to back pay-per-views, and people have meltdowns and crazy crap goes on, and it's one of those things. We've been here for 81 shows, though.
We have been. Look at us.
Good. I don't know if we should tease next week that I'm not going to be here.
I was going to ask you. I was going to let you handle
I was going to ask you off air, but I totally blew kayfabe.
Well, the internet crashing before you got on kind of threw things off, so that's quite all right. Yeah, so you go ahead and let them know. Let the people know. If you would like to say who it is, you can, or if you want to keep it a mystery, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we tease? Should we make people wait?
We can,
or we can tell everyone, because then we can get them super hyped for it during the week.
I will follow your lead, whatever you would like to do.
I haven't decided yet. All right, but I am off to do shenanigans next weekend. I am going to do my thing where I dress up everyone calls us Vikings. I mean, I'm not really it's the Viking thing came from other people, so we just leaned into the gimmick. So But I am off to shenanigans at the Ohio Renaissance Festival next weekend. So Sam will be joined by one of my favorite and very special guests.
Yes, I'm very excited about if Mel couldn't be here, I'm very excited about the person that we have coming to hang out with us next week. So
I think this is good timing too for having another voice.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lady voice.
It is.
And then we might even have another lady voice coming soon.
We're planning, Mel and I are working on some things behind the scenes about getting some guests lined up and to get some different voices and perspectives on here. So
and because I am a fan of shameless plugging all night long and all day long too, I am going to tease that it is Kela Cash from the rap, because
I'm going to tease and just tell you who it is.
I'm going to tease that it's her because she will then talk about it on her shows over the next couple of days.
There you go.
We'll talk and we can get you guys hype. And I mean,
maybe I can do
excited. Where I share a picture or two on the Powerbombshells IG, because I know you guys enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I hate that Mel won't be here next week, but when she told me, I was like, when she told me, she's like, do you want to get a guest host? I was like, let's ask Kela.
I was like, I get guests that I'm jealous of, but also at the same time, I know it's going to be so good. And it's like something for me. Like, I want something that I know I'm going to enjoy watching back.
Yeah. Kela's great. And I was like, and finally we get her on here where it's not a pre-show or a post show. We have her on a regular show for once.
She gets to be like the other girl voice in the room, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And not just that. I mean, Kela is like one of my favorite people to listen to. I didn't get a chance to listen to their clip about Bray Wyatt until this morning, and of her and Scott and Jeremy talking about it. And it was really touching. They all three, like the opening, Kela just crushed the opening of that and having to talk about it. And they all three gave some really great perspective, and they did a phenomenal job with it. And so they're, yes, I'm really excited to have Kela on next week. And then of course, when Mel comes back, we'll have to have Kela again. Yes. Just any reason to have Kela on is fine with me. Always. You know, it's funny. Like Garrett gave one of the pieces of advice, and let me pick up my pen here before I tell everyone. So one of the pieces of advice, or kind of like words of wisdom, Garrett gave me when we were first doing this, was like, you know, listen to people that you like, and you know, sort of like, don't mimic them exactly, but like emulate their kind of like, and emulate sort of their drive and the way that they present themselves and things like that, and look at and break down like what it is that you love about them and their presentation. And she is definitely one of those people that I'm just like, God,
yeah,
that is like, you just like nailed exactly what I was thinking. Like,
yeah, she has a really great knack for that. She is very good at what she does, and she's very good at making you feel like she's talking to you instead of at you. Like, she's really good at, it feels like she's sitting on the other side of the table from you, talking to you, and she's really great at that. So I'm really excited to have her next week.
She's one of my podcasters I talk back to. Can't hear me. So again, member of the fam, like we talked about last week. If it's a podcast that you talk back to, that means that's a member of your family.
There you go. So. Colin is here. He said, "Hi, folks. Sorry, I'm
Colin.
late. We were a little late too. We had some technical difficulties, but we're here now." Jim,
we were just talking hats, and
Jim called you guys the Viking Graders, and I love it.
That's good, actually.
I love it.
That's pretty fun.
Perfect.
Jim like gets impromptu Viking advice from me. He's like, "So you're a professional Viking?" I'm like, not precisely, but it's, you know, it's so cute. I just love it.
You should put that in your Twitter bio. One half of the Viking Graders.
Viking Graders. Actually, Bob might actually enjoy that one, because I don't have like a specific. I usually use my gaming name if I'm gonna give a pseudonym for my gimmick, because I don't really. He has one that someone else like named him in one of the beard contests. Bob has an epic beard, and he's won beard contest.
He does. You should see it on the Powerbombshells Instagram.
Yes, he's a great picture with Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah,
where both of them are. Where Tommaso Ciampa walked by him and said, "Great beard." And we
That's
both turned
praise.
around. Yeah, it was
high praise.
And then they took a picture together. It was great because at this year's, I think it was this year's Forbidden Door, someone ran over to us. No, it was last year's. It was like, did you know that you look just like Tommaso Ciampa? And Bob was like, and the two of us were just like, that's amazing because we have that picture. So
He should just
and we can confirm his height because
right.
we made that point also because we know what Bob's height is, official height is, and
right. So
he's taller. He's taller. Tommaso's build. But anyway, the point being that the epic beard, he won a beard contest, one of the beard contests at the Renfest up in Michigan here, and he kind of got named by one of the people that ultimately became our friends.
Great.
But
that's the best way to have them.
Semi-named, but I mean, it was kind of a combo. It was I feel like it was a collaborative effort that they didn't realize was going on until it happened, and then it made that we had such a good. That was one of the best times, and it got to be that they had to start making Bob a judge because he couldn't keep winning the contest.
They had to retire him from competition. That's fantastic.
It was really cute. I remember because you get to doing this and you get to be friends with some people, and I remember one of the guys that that coordinates those events as part of the fair being like, "Hey, so
you're retired now.
Do you think Bob would be cool with being a judge of the competition this year?" And I'm like, "Are you saying you can't have him win the competition?" He's like, "Mel, are you gonna make me say it?" It's like,
yes.
I mean, it's me. But here we are. So we're, I guess, we're off to, hopefully there will not be, I mean, maybe, hopefully there will or won't be a competition at Ohio. We've never been to Ohio before. We're trying.
So maybe he can enter that one.
Exactly. And maybe help like Dark Horse.
There you go.
Yeah. Get your paid.
We're rooting for you. If this happens, we want it to. And please take pictures and
get your Katy Perry ready because here comes Bob's beard. If something like that happened, I better believe I would be on social media with that stuff because
you should be.
That's fun.
Yeah,
really, and I mean, really, at the end of the day, the idea here is like we are trying to like spread our wings. We would have done it before the pandemic, but the pandemic said, "Mortals."
They sure did.
Planning. So, but now we're past that, so it's time to hopefully stretch out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you guys are going, and then we'll still be here next week with
and you'll still get a fantastic
and like
show.
Nikki said that she was going to say it's not me, then Mel said it wasn't me, so just kidding.
Yeah, it almost was you today because the internet.
Yeah, Nikki, you almost co-hosted with me right now.
I might have been like a voice. I might have been like producing from my phone, and it might have been you. So.
We were very close to having an all new way of doing this show today.
I
guess we'll get into some of the wrestling now. And so last week when you saw us, we were doing our first ever show at 10:30 in the morning. And if you missed it, I am not a morning person, even though I did find out that I had some good ideas. So maybe I should be a little bit more of a morning person. But we did that. And so we got you at it. Well, and then we found out. So hopefully today's 0 hour doesn't start an hour earlier than expected, like last week, because we were on air and found out that they were also doing an early pre-show. We were trying to get you out of here before the matches started, and we started getting text messages and comments that they were on air and they had just done a contract signing with Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs. And then we found out about Jeff Jarrett and Grado, and
they were like, "Hey, Tian Strumpets, wrap it up."
Yeah, they totally
finish your scones and get your tails out here.
They encroached on us, and they were like, "Oh, Sam and Mel are on. We can't have that."
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, the other thing too. We know that Tony hates the timekeepers, so
and we're going to talk about it. But so I will give.
Tony,
we're going to talk about it. I mean, we have some side things to talk about as well, but there's a big story we want to talk about. That's the other big story. But before we do that, I wanted to get your because we weren't here. I mean, all the things that happened, because obviously we were here before all in officially happened. So we're just going to give our quick thoughts on the show itself and any comments you want to make. So what did you think of All In Wembley Stadium?
So it was awesome. It was the greatest. It was the biggest show in the history of wrestling. There's all the numbers and all the things, but in the end, it's like I thought the show was really, really good. I loved the main event. I'm wearing my best friend shirt because I should have put money down because I called that win. And we almost called sort of how it went down. We definitely called some of the Sue intervention portions of it. And I said that they sneak in the win. And I was like,
yeah, the stadium. I would have to, first I'll have to agree with Garrett. This was not a stadium stampede. It was Anarchy in the Arena.
Yeah.
Just called Stadium Stampede. But regardless of what you call it, it was amazing. It was like, I love the other stadium stampedes. I was in the arena for All Out 2022 when they first came back when we were at so I guess it was 2020. No, it was 2021 when we were in Jacksonville when it was the first pay-per-view back that we were all at. So I was there. So you did we watched on screen like all the stuff play out, and then it comes out and then there's like people feuding over my head, and then it finished in the ring. And so this was definitely more of an Anarchy in the Arena. But it is whatever you call it. It was incredible. Probably my favorite one it was definitely my favorite match of the entire night. I thought it was I loved everything about it. I loved all the people involved. I loved, Sue getting involved in her baking cookies and just the whole thing.
I was sad. Like, even I'm not like some cookie eater, but even I was like, those look so delicious.
That's why Nikki and I were like, oh, those look good. Daza said he was sad that they didn't use an FA Cup replica in the Stampede. I thought of that, Daza, because I remembered you saying that you hoped that they used it, and I was sad that they didn't. Hey, I was also sad that they didn't bring in Elton John, but
that's pricey though.
It is pricey, but you could have skipped on some other stuff. I will say I was a little perturbed about Saraya using Queen, Young Bucks using Queen. Wow, Emmy's there and they didn't put her on the card, but we'll get into that. But overall, I thought it was a really good show. I really enjoyed a lot of it. It was one of my favorite things that they did, of course, is when they waited for it to get dark so that the House of Black could have their special entrance, and Buddy paid, well, they all did, but Buddy paid tribute to Bray Wyatt. He had, like, as soon as I saw the lantern, I was like, oh my God. And then they zoomed out and they showed all the fireflies. And I thought that was a really cool moment. And I was so glad that they did it. And of course they talked about it on commentary, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, just the spectacle, like I loved, of course, of all the pyro always makes me think of Cody Rhodes. Because it's always been a joke with him about him getting the pyro. And at the very first All In, and I actually posted the video on Twitter the other day, and it's the clip at the beginning, and the Young Bucks are talking about, do you want to blow all the budget? You blow our whole budget on pyro. And then it was just like these tiny little sparks. And then of course it's been a running joke about pyro with them since the very beginning. And so it was a nice little callback to see like actual pyro, and the way like it just looked really cool, like zooming out and seeing, and I'm like, that's at a wrestling show. Like, that's incredible. And I'm glad they're going back next year. I hope Tony on the media call, Tony wouldn't really commit to saying that they're touring there. I expect he kind of hinted that they probably will do like maybe like a Dynamite and Rampage and Collision leading up to the next one, but he said like, this is our very first show in the UK and we didn't want to do anything else. Like, we didn't want to have Dynamite and Collision and Rampage. We wanted the first AEW show in the UK ever to be All In, which makes perfect sense to me. Like, so I hope that next time they get the UK fans, maybe they'll do a Starcast or like a scaled down version of it or something like that. Like, that would be really cool. But he said that he's already like thinking of plans of like, how do I make this bigger? And he talked in the media call about potentially having a bigger stage, but then that would mean less seats. And he was like, you know, we kind of have to weigh that out. Like, do we want, like, we can have the big stage and have the big spectacle, but on the other hand, then that means less people get to come in and see it. So he's clearly already, as if he doesn't think about 9 million other things, he's already thinking about next year, which is really cool. So,
and I have friends that were in the building, and they, I mean, John, our friend John from, you know, John the artist.
Yes.
He was there, and he said that the presentation was awesome, and all of those things came off. Like, and he's been to a WrestleMania now, and he's been to Madison Square Garden, and he hit the first, you know, he was in Chicago for the first.
So he definitely has stuff to compare.
So he has things to make comparison to, and he just said that the thing was wonderful, and that they just had a fantastic time, and they didn't see no one in him. And I know a couple of, again, the other people, because we've seen wrestling shows together, so I know a couple of the people that he was there with. And, you know, lots of good feedback. Like, they were very, very excited, and they like felt very satisfied. And it sounded like it was the right, like, it went great. It went amazing. Like, everything was amazing about it. And it was like such a good feeling coming out of it. And I really enjoyed the main event. I
did too. I loved it. I thought it was great.
100%. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was well executed. I actually did a kind of like, one of my miffed about it things was, I can understand why people would be angry if that there was a distraction from that main event, because it was so really, like, there were different stages, and it was a real story. They really went through their whole relationship, and this thing was taken off, and it's awesome. So I mean, and the guys in the stadium that I know, like, had a great time and loved it and thought it was amazing. So I'm happy. Like, I'm so glad it was a success on this level.
Me too. Yeah, the one thing that did kind of make me laugh, though, and not in a mean way, but just that people were complaining about the traffic and how, like, the car services were really expensive, and it was taking an hour. And when I went to the original, you got the full All In experience, because when I went to All In, we had the exact same problem. We could not find a car service. We couldn't find an Uber. We couldn't find Lyft. Everybody was like standing in the parking lot next to the building next to it. We're all on our phones. They were charging, like, I think there was 6 of us. So we had to find a big car that could hold all of us. And they were charging like $400. And we were like, this is absurd. So we ended up walking 1.5 miles to a hotel, because we could see a hotel, because it was like a Hilton. And so it was like really high up, and we could see the light, and we were like, so we started walking, and we were like, let's get away from the arena, because that's where all the traffic is. So we walked. It took us like at least a half an hour, and we were all irritated. And so we get to the hotel parking lot, and there were other people doing the same thing. And so from there, we found an Uber or a Lyft, and they came to the hotel and got us, and the price was decent. We could split it. The wait was maybe, I want to say like an hour. I could be wrong, but we were like, at this point, like, it doesn't, like, we're going to be here regardless, and we have no way to get back. Because also, you are, like, there was a sign last night that said Hoffman Estates is not Chicago, which is true. I learned that that Hoffman Estates is a suburb. There is not the type of
subsystem.
There's not the subway system you think there is in that area. And so we all had to wait. And so the woman, like, so we were in the car with the woman, and she's like, "Oh, where were you at?" And so we were telling her what All In was, and we told her about, like, everybody, like, we're all fighting for cars. It's really expensive. People are jacking up the prices. And she was like, that's insane. Like, I would never do that. Like, why would you do that? Like, it was like blowing her mind that people were like jacking up their prices, and that there was like really long wait times and stuff like that. And so by the time we got to the hotel, we had tickets to go to the, like, All In after party thing that they were doing at the hotel, but it was like it was late when we got back, and we were all mad, and we were all hungry, and we were like, we're not going. And so so we skipped out on that, but it made me, I was like, oh, so they are getting the full All In experience like I got. They're getting the traffic issues. I did see like a couple of people say, like somebody said they left during the main event and they were home by 10 o'clock. And so then somebody else said they left when they were sure there wasn't going to be a heel turn at the end of the show. They left and they made it to the train with 4 minutes to spare. So it was a mess. So I was like, I hate it for them, but on the other hand, I was like, I feel your pain, and now you get the full All In experience.
It's exactly what it's like getting out of those shows. I mean, forget the Escape from WrestleMania 35 story that mine is crazy as everyone else's. I'll tell it someday, but
yeah,
the reality is like the United Centers honestly was great because it's not right next to an L stop, but it's walking distance to an L stop, and there's enough people around, and it's not too seedy in the area that you have to like. Yeah. And we were in a group, so you could get to the L stop, and the L takes you everywhere like that you need to go downtown. So the United Center is fine because it's walking distance. It's like through a neighborhood and around a corner.
Yeah, the Now Arena, which it wasn't the Now Arena at the time. It was I forget the name of it, but yeah, but the Burbs ones, like the WrestleMania was in New York City, but it was really in East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium. I almost called it the Meadowlands again, like I always do because I'm old. And but oh man, it was a battle. We as my friend put it, I'm glad that we were the protagonist in this story. That was the first thing he said when we got back to the hotel, and we slipped the card key in the door, and he was like, I'm glad that we were the protagonist in this story. And we all went in there and were like, oh my God, just listening back, I was listening to they had dropped an observer. They must have got in 5 seconds before us. It was 3 a.m. Right. But it's we're off on a tangent here about the fact that, but congratulations, everybody. You got a great experience and you got the aftermath. Although I feel bad for some, my friends, my Irish friends, unfortunately missed the planes before I've heard hackers. I feel some people, I heard something about some people got stuck and missed their flights and things like that. Even Brian must have got out on the last plane that made it out from under them shutting down the airspace because hackers took over ground control, and it was probably a ransom thing. Yeah. And but whatever, I don't know, I'm speculating. But some other people did not get out, and fortunately for my friends, one of their friends is local, and so they ended up being good, very, very less. They didn't have to shell out a bunch of money for hotels. That's or good. They weren't stuck in because it was 2 days extra that they were stuck there. That sucks. Yeah, so Daza said if he wins the lottery, he's gonna fund me and you coming over there for next year's show. I really want to go. Nikki said if I had FU money. And that if Brad, Kathy, and Nikki need to save up to go too, yes, we'll just get the whole Powerbombshells crew over there. We can do a group. Maybe we go group sale or something. There we go. We can get a group discount on a trip to the All In. We can little Powerbombshells con. Powerbombshells con. Yes. And so we have a comment here about that they were running the shuttle for All In. There it is. Or after All In, and it said the Elite did a horrible job logistically with that show. Yes, I would 100% agree. I'm sorry that you had to run that shuttle because I can only imagine what you had to deal with, and it was not a fun time. And I still hear people every year when it gets to be the anniversary of All In, everybody's like, remember the terrible traffic? And to their defense, they had never done it before. So true. But WWE has no excuse because they've done WrestleMania every year. They just don't GAF. They don't.
So,
they get the money to come perform in the city.
It's WrestleMania.
That's what they care about.
You guys were like, what, 10 or 12,000 people? We're talking about 50, 60.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there were
Please don't
80,000
care.
people having to get out last week. So that
right, exactly. So that's similar. It feels that has a very the vibe is very WrestleMania to me, like especially WrestleMania 35, because that was about my personal experience. On that front. So I hear you guys. Like,
yes, definitely. We feel your pain. So one of the comments, obviously, and Gray touched on this, and was that it was overall a great show, but it needed more women's matches. The lone women's match got 8 minutes and 44 seconds. So the average time of a Dynamite match is what they got on the biggest pay-per-view they've ever held. Emmy was there. We now know Ruby Soho was there because she ran out. They could have done more. So there was a question in the media scrum, which I will say I was watching the scrum and I was watching Garrett's post show, and it had been storming all day, and about halfway through the power went out for 2 hours.
Of course.
I was like, are you kidding me? So I was getting some messages would come through Slack. So I heard that there was a question asked to Tony about the women's wrestling. And so everybody got a 2 hour delay on my response to it because I didn't have power. I was like, of course the power would go out when I can't comment in real time. But Lyric, she did a phenomenal job. She asked the exact question I would have asked. And I believe that Mel has the clip.
I have the clip. I believe that I can play the clip for you guys. If the audio isn't working, let me know. We're gonna see if
Mercury Retrograde will cooperate and let you listen to this if you have not heard it yet.
And let's see here. So I will roll it back probably as soon as I add it to this stream. So let's do this.
Things that was noticeable from the All In card that was missing.
Pull it back all the way. And
Lyric Swinton Women's Wrestling Talk. Congratulations on an awesome show tonight. One of the things that was noticeable from the All In card that was missing was there was only one women's match. Obviously, the 4-way was a callback to the original All In. Yes. But there were some stars that were noticeably missing, like Athena, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander. Can we expect more women's matches to be on the All Out card and on future pay-per-view cards going forward?
Well, we've announced Ruby versus Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship. We'll have to see what kind of condition Saraya is in coming out of this match. It's a great question. A lot of the card tonight was both featuring as many of the top stars in AEW as I could get. So a lot of the biggest stars in the company were not on this show, and that's why we have big matches like Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs and obviously Ruby Soho versus Chris Statlander next week. I think the pacing of the show tonight was probably the best we've ever had, the best show we've ever done. So to add more, I think would have been challenging, but also we have so many great stars across both the men's and women's division, great wrestlers. I think the card in many ways was, I tried to pace it perfectly, and I think we did pretty great. One thing I would note, and you said it yourself, a lot of the card was paying homage to the original All In. The 4-way match, Dr. Britt Baker participated on the original All In, and that was the key women's match on the original show. And Madison Rain pointed that out in her commentary as well, that she was also in that original 4-way, and Dr. Britt Baker participated. I had the Golden Elite in a trios match, kind of a callback to the original All In, and definitely there were a lot of top stars, men and women, I was hoping to get on tonight's card. And there were a lot of people that wanted to be on the show. And I hope we can continue to get all the top stars in, but also I want to pace the shows and be able to have great matches without having to rush through. So I was really excited about the card and also very happy for Saraya. I thought it was a great moment. And I would love to try and get some of those top stars in All Out and also next year's All In. I think you mentioned some great names, and those would be great names for the show. So that's a great question. Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully you guys were all able to hear it. I didn't hear anyone complaining.
Apparently to the comments we're getting on the side, we did get it because we've got a he's full of ... Daza says he dodged. Grace says, he's just avoiding the question. This is typical.
He actually regurgitated her words back to her a lot. This is like politics answer.
This is typically how Tony will answer things that he does not want to answer. just from my experience with him, being on media calls, being the person to ask questions. We all know about my experience asking him about the Thunder Rosa situation and how that went. He was actually much more calm here. That was the first time he was really rude to me on that call about that. But this is typically, and I know, and on top of this, Tony was also dealing with the other things that had happened, backstage. So on top, like, I'm trying to give him some grace, but this is typically how he responds to questions relating to the women's division, or just questions he does not want to answer, which I can understand. I expect answers like this from him now, and typically, like, as I did get to ask him a question on the media call this week. I was the one who asked about Wrestle Dream. I've seen a lot of people referencing it. That was my question. I asked him about women being involved with Wrestle Dream,
because
I was gonna ask about Athena, but Bill Pritchard went before I did, and he was talking about ROH, and so in that, he ended up answering my question about Athena. And so I was like I had a couple other questions, and I was like, well, do I ask this? I was like, I know if I ask this, then I'm going to get just a generic answer. And I was like, but if I ask, so I went with the Wrestle Dream question because I knew I would get an actual response. And so we'll get to, that too, but I clearly have my thoughts about this, but I'll let you, what is your response to what Tony Khan said to Lyric?
I think it's great politics and great business. I don't like the insinuation that he can't, like, it's the women would slow down. I don't like the answer. I mean, there's kind of the women would have slowed the car down answer in there that it had a very was very passive aggressive. I know from hearing that there was something of an exodus to the bathroom during that match, which continues to be a problem. And it's like, is that because people don't like women's wrestling, or is it because women's wrestling isn't being booked properly? And
I think there's
those
things, but I also would say they've been trained that way because WWE has trained people to think women's matches are not important, that they are the bathroom break, they are worthy of only 3 minutes. And I feel like that's a mindset that some people just cannot break out of, no matter how good the wrestling is in front of them. And it also, that mindset of how WWE has treated women in the past, I think emboldens people. If you saw the day before, there was a question where some fan asked asked Karen Jarrett who was better in bed, Kurt or Jeff Jarrett, and they asked it in front of Jeff Jarrett.
That's rude and none of your business.
Yes, and he's younger, probably late 20s,
I mean, I guess
30s, but wrestling. I feel like some of that is because it's ingrained in their brain that they can treat women they think of women in wrestling as these objects, as these things that they can act like. Who the hell would ask something like that in a normal basis? And I'm not blaming all of WWE, but I feel like sometimes that is ingrained in them because they were ingrained to treat women. They were in bra and panty matches. They were in mud cello matches. They were and all of these things. They were given 3 minutes. They were in scantily clad clothes all the time. And so I think for some people, that's ingrained in them to think that's okay. So now it's also ingrained, oh, this is a women's match. Time to go to the bathroom. Time to get my snacks. And obviously in a pay-per-view where you have things happening, like the one thing about WWE is they have like their 8-minute packages in between. So that gives you a little leeway. All Out at AEW is just boom, 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 right into the next thing. And so you could be in line in a different match and still miss a women's match because of that. But so there is a lot of factors, but sometimes I think for some fans that is in their mindset because WWE trained them for 30 years that women are not important. Women's matches don't matter.
Did something that WWE did this with Ronda Rousey when they brought her in. So there were all these. They had actually women's storylines that they had built.
Yeah, to get
and they had a whole bunch of stories.
They made it look like they
but
cared.
Yeah, but regardless, but they had a whole thing going on where they had a whole stream of stories, and then it was like, okay, well, Ronda Rousey needs to be written in here, so we're gonna write a really rushed thing, and we're gonna put her in here, and she's gonna win the belt. And everything that we've done for the past year doesn't matter at all. It's completely irrelevant. And so, regardless of how you feel about how the women have been booked up to this point, Saraya has not been someone who has been in that level of contention for the belt. And they did this match to get the belt on Saraya in the UK. And that's fine. I get it. If you're doing a feature match and everything else.
Right.
But why should I care about this match? Because it disregards a lot of storytelling, good or bad. It disregards a lot of the storytelling you've been telling.
Right.
I know there's the Tony turned on her thing, and they, for once and for all, they're broken up. But it wasn't.
They're not broken up. But
it was very much about that match was there to put the belt on a British wrestler.
Right. Exactly.
Specifically,
they were giving her the feel good moment because she missed 5 years. She missed 5 years. So we've talked about it a few times once the match was made. We knew the reason the belt was put on Shida was because Saraya couldn't beat Tony for the title. So they had to make Shida a transitional champion. I think it's bullshit. I think putting it on Saraya is the wrong decision for multiple reasons. I get that they were doing it for the moment, but I think it was the wrong choice.
You can't set people up for failure and then say, well, we tried it and they failed.
Right, which is what they keep doing.
Well, you tried it, but you did it at a time when, like, especially with the last, 3 or 4 weeks where it's like, okay, we're going to have all women's main events. And then we're going to, show you that the show falls off when the women are. Right. And maybe that's legitimate. And maybe there's something to it. Or maybe it's that you're. I mean,
it's a lot of we've talked about this a lot too. It's a lot of reactionary booking, doing the main events to do the main events, to be like, here, shut up now. What else are you going to complain about?
If you don't want women on your product, don't have women on your product. Or if you don't want them on AEW, just put them on ROH. But don't hey, it's one of my favorite things that I've been saying since 2016 is don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's an old one and it makes the hat look silly now. See, this hat is multifunctional, but that's where I'm at with it. It was very, all he did was regurgitate Willow's I keep doing it. Lyric's words to her. And he was essentially like, and you said it, and you did, and he did. That's a classic. I went to school for politics and journalism.
Oh, it's definitely a classic.
And I've done. And again, a couple of years, I've been in business mode.
Many times. That's how he answers questions.
Perfect politicking.
No, it's exactly what that is.
But it doesn't tell me anything about where you stand.
He was dodging the question, as somebody mentioned, and because I went back to the thread that I wrote about it, because I was like, of course this had to happen after we've had a show, and by the time we get to this, it's already going to be a week. I was like, I want to talk about this now.
It didn't matter.
I was heated just because it feels like, so to give a little bit of context with the night that this happened, the 1 8-minute and 44-second match, NWA 75, NWA is a train wreck. They had the same night as All In, they had 2 women's title matches. The women main evented the first night because NWA 75 was 2 nights. They main evented. Camille defended her title again, and she got the main event spot. And of course, I knew the women were not going to main event all in. I was not asking for that, but we've talked about it before. AEW is still the only company who has not had women main event a pay-per-view. ROH only main evented a pay-per-view because Mark Briscoe got injured, and then the fans had to beg Tony to put Athena and Willow in the spot that they earned. So we only got it because we complained enough about it. They were like, fine. And then it was a whole mess. They didn't say it was the main event. They said it was going to be Claudio. And then they were like, then halfway through the show, they're like, it's a double main event. then they were like, well, the women are closing. So it was like pulling teeth just to get them to even
the
admit.
weird, and it was still a weird bait and switch that they ended up. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, that's, to me, that still felt like a weird bait and switch. That's
Right,
my
and-
personal opinion. I'm not
Yeah.
saying Tony was out to get me, but in my opinion, that is classic. I mean,
yeah, they did. They promoted that pay-per-view as Claudio main eventing to get people to buy the pay-per-view because they didn't think that telling people that Athena was main eventing would sell pay-per-views, when I know for a fact that one of my friends did not buy that pay-per-view because he thought Athena was not main eventing. And then because he was told by ROH that Claudio was main eventing and not Athena. And so he did not buy the pay-per-view. And then, so they didn't think Athena could sell pay-per-view. So they said it was Claudio. And then as the show was going, they were like, oh, it's going to be Athena. Finally, after you begged us for weeks. And it's only because Mark Briscoe is injured and he's not going to win the title here like we thought we were going to have. So now we'll give you this. So
that
it's
was
very
something to the point of the conversation. I know that you kind of felt like it dropped out and people weren't, but that was one of the reasons I gave a shout out to our Discord channel, is that they were folks that are in our chat right now and other folks were having a conversation.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, because that's what
this entire week. That's why I said I was trying to be very mindful of getting in there and making sure I was reading what you guys were posting,
happy to hear
because they were talking about it.
And one of
in our Discord channel, I mean, we were hopping this week. I felt pretty darn good. I was like, pretty proud. Powerbombshells channel is kicking ass this week.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And that's why I wanted to give everyone a shout out, is because to let you know that there was conversation, and I may have messaged you about it, and if I didn't, I do. But I wanted you to know that
really happy to hear
somewhere there was a space somewhere where the conversation was continuing throughout the week, and so it was not irrelevant for us coming into today, because at least our pals, our people that are going to follow us, that are going to hang out, and that are going to have good conversations, and I see them like being responsible about their discourse online in social media, all having a good, what I felt was a very positive and like constructive conversation about everything that's been going on. And we had people popping in from other channels because clearly we talk about this, but it was really, really, that was why I did want to give that shout out at the beginning, is because they did keep the conversation going in. There was a small community of folks that were like, this matters to us.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad to hear that. And I want to bring up what something Daza said, because I have something that I wanted to add, because I was going to say something similar. So Daza said the thing is, AEW is supposed to be the wrestling fans promotion, fans of indies and international. And one feature of the indies was putting strong women on their shows, and AEW has failed on this. And that's the thing. They kept saying in the beginning, we're the alternative. We're the alternative. We are going to do things differently. We're going to do things differently. And with the women, that has never been the case. This has been an issue since day one. I have been covering this. I've covered AEW from the beginning. This has been something I've had to write about. I've had to talk about. I've done this for years now, and I just feel like I talk in circles. And Daza said there are a lot of wrestling fans who do not care about women's wrestling. However, there are many of us who do, and we want to get behind it. Exactly. And one of the things I was like, one of the things I said after Tony's response was, how do you expect to attract women like Mercedes Monet, Mariah May? At the time I wrote this was Jordan. And then 2 hours later, we found out Jordan had resigned with Impact. Maybe that was always her plan to sign with Impact. Maybe she took a look around and was like, I'm going to stay where I'm at, because at least women's wrestling matters to Impact, because in WWE, it sure doesn't. And in AEW, it sure doesn't either. So how can you this is what you put out weekly, and you expect to attract the top talent in the women's wrestling? Like, how can you make women feel like you're checking off your list? You are not investing in them. And why should Mercedes leave Japan to come to you full time? And or you're either that, or my fear is they are going to do like they did with Ronda, and the fact that they make her the star. And of course, and believe me, Mercedes is the star. We love her here. But then if you don't book the women with her and build up the division around her, then you're pushing the women's division down and you are not improving your division. You are focusing on one woman. And that's kind of just, and so I have a lot of issues with that. And, you know, I would love to see Mercedes there. I think she's wonderful and she's amazing. And he even mentioned when I asked about Wrestle Dream, he said that, you know, Mercedes is not cleared. They don't know if she'll be cleared by October the 1st, and they would love to have her there. But he doesn't know. And I know that I believe Stardom has some shows that day, or has a show that day. I believe there's also a New Japan show. Clearly, I mean, it's to honor Antonio Inoki. That is the 1-year anniversary of his death. And so I don't know who's going to be available. Maybe they do have, maybe it's just Willow. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do here. Maybe they do. Maybe Mercedes will be cleared and she'll be on this show. But I'm just very frustrated. I'm still, and then we'll get into how the card is booked today. I'm very frustrated with a lot of this. And one of the things I talked about was, if you're sick of hearing about it, imagine how tired I am of talking about it. But if we don't talk about it, it goes away. Nothing happens. Wow. And I'm not saying us talking about this right now on the show and having these conversations is going to drive, maybe it doesn't drive change, but maybe it gets people in our Discord talking about it and seeing that, yes, there is an issue with the way women are booked in AEW and in WWE. It's not just an AEW thing, but that's what I primarily watch. And so that's what I talk about. This is why I time the matches that I time. I'm trying to prove a point. And people can't, people were seeking out that time last week and they were like, this is pathetic. Like, you can't have a pay-per-view like this and have shove 4 women into a match and give them less than 9 minutes. Like, this is absurd. Then Tony comes out and gives the answer that he gives. And then we see, the women had 8 minutes on Collision last night. And I know it was a go home show and there's always an excuse for why it's this and why it's that. But I constantly feel like women are a checklist and they are not something to be invested in. And how do you get people to invest, people who don't really care about women's wrestling, how do you get them to invest in women's wrestling when you're not giving them anything to invest in, or it's the same women constantly that you are. And I'm so glad that Emi Sakura got a Dynamite match. She tweeted, it'd been 3 years and 8 months since she was last on Dynamite.
Wow.
And the only reason she got that spot is because people were going on Twitter and using the hashtag Emmy for Wembley. I wrote an article about it. Somebody from, I believe, Voices of Wrestling wrote an article about it. That's how we affect change. And no, it's not going to happen overnight. And no, sometimes they are just going to try to appease us by having women in main events that don't, and then not following up on it. They do that. We see what's booked today. I will get to when we talk about 0 hour and the things like that. So it's extremely frustrating, but we have to talk about it or nothing changes.
Well, how about this? I mean, on a week where this week it was the University of Nebraska, I believe, the women's volleyball team had an attendance of 92,000 people.
Yep.
So there's something to this women's sports thing.
Yeah. And
somewhere.
I
know it can be boring in Nebraska, but
I believe I heard they sold those tickets out in 3 days.
It was a big draw. They sold a bunch at the beginning and then added a bunch is how I heard the story. And it was the largest women's sporting event view in North America.
That's incredible.
Attendance.
So, there's people who say women's sports don't matter. Sure.
I would say, if you look at a city like Seattle, where they've actually invested in the Storm in a good way, where they actually are part of the sporting community. Now, in fairness, it's a little unfair because Seattle is a very sporty, very sports oriented town. The soccer team does well, but the real football.
But still, people can use that and model some of the stuff.
Seattle Storm are very, very. People love them. So, they talk about them I'm listening to Sports Talk Radio again because we're doing the fantasy footballs and it's on the topics. They're so it's not possible. I guess is my point. It's not.
So there are people out there who would care, and if you invest and take the time to tell people why they should care, then they'll do it. Because I mean, they do. I mean, look at what the MJF and Adam Cole. They gave us reasons to care about them and about this tag team that should have never been. And
I don't even think they expected.
No, they didn't. But I mean, so if you, I mean, we'll look at the stuff with Athena. Like,
but that's how you get good ideas. I mean, is by doing trying a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
and seeing what's.
Not everything is going to work out, but I mean, you have to at least try. And we've talked about, and that's another thing, the women do not have the same equity that men have in wrestling, in AEW, in ROH, in other companies. You know, they don't. And yeah, maybe WWE does. I mean, I don't know how far ahead they are because I still see. I mean, I didn't watch Payback, but I heard that Trish and Becky finally got their payoff that they should have had at SummerSlam. They got the cage match, and I believe it opened the show, so they didn't get a main event. But that I heard the match was incredible. Some people said it was good. Some people said it's the best. That's the best cage match they've ever seen. I heard somebody else said it's in the conversation for match of the year contender, which is amazing. So if you give women the time and you invest in them and you let them. You give fans a reason to care, then they will deliver. Athena and Willow prove that in ROH in spades. And Athena is still, and now one of the really cool things about Athena in ROH is they are, like, I do want to see her on more AEW programming. However, they are, and I've talked about this before, she is the cornerstone of the ROH women's division. They are less than 30 episodes in. It's going to take some time to build. But one of the things they're doing with her right now, she's taken Billy Starks under her wings. And Billy is obviously a prodigy. She's phenomenal. But to get the experience of working with somebody like Athena is incredible. And it's like, obviously, we've seen them do that with the men. You know, we've saw, Jack Perry and Christian. And we've seen like Matt Hardy working with Isaiah and things like that. And we've seen Matt Sydal, who worked with Top Flight. And so we've seen them like take younger wrestlers under their wings. So that's kind of what she's doing with Billy Starks right now. But another thing that they're doing is they're even working with the Renegades sisters. They are putting them in a spot and they're focusing on different women in ROH. So it's possible. And I know that they can do it if they just put the damn effort into it. And so, so I am glad, at least in the ROH aspect, that they're doing that kind of stuff with Athena and they're building the division with her instead of because she is the star, and I think she surprised them in a lot of ways. And so now they're finally utilizing some of that. And some of that may be because of Maria. I think Maria is a little bit more involved in the ROH stuff, which is again one of the reasons you and I have wanted her to be more involved in the AEW women's sort of thing. So I don't know, maybe ROH is they're testing things out in ROH and seeing what works and then maybe they'll bring it to AEW.
That's what I was just sort of sitting here wondering in my head.
But in the meantime, you can't just, while you're experimenting with one, doesn't mean you can't experiment with the other one and try to figure out, like, you've got to do it. It's it's a two-pronged thing, like, situation. You have to do it in both brands. And Daza says, Jordan Grace was a free agent, has gone back to Impact. Maybe there are other reasons but she didn't feel that she hasn't landed in AEW was telling. Yeah, I think the same thing, Daza. That's exactly what I thought.
A lot of people did believe
and again,
that she was going
maybe
there.
This was her plan all along. She took the summer off. She's gotten into bodybuilding, and she wants to do more of that. And I know Impact gives a lot of leeway in doing outside projects, which is great. But AEW kind of does too. Like, they give people some leeway to do some other outside things. So I don't think that AEW would have told her no, but I mean, I don't know what was offered. I don't know if there ever was an offer. I assume there was, because I don't know how you wouldn't make an offer to Jordan Grace. But it does make me feel like she saw what they're doing and it was like, nope. In Impact, the knockouts have always been one of their top features. And like next week, they're having, I think it's next week, they're doing the 1000th episode taping, and they're bringing back Awesome Kong, and Gail Kim's coming out of retirement. They're bringing in the Beautiful People. There's going to be a huge battle royal not a battle royal, but a huge tag match that's got Jordan Grace, I believe, will be in it now. And so she's going to be alongside Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, and then they have like a mystery guest that's going to be there. Some people think it's going to be Madison Rayne, even though she's in AEW. They think the because I believe AEW and Impact still have a solid relationship. So some people think that they're going to see Madison over there. She's back from injury now. But yes, I mean, they care about their women. That's basically what it comes down to. And so it is what it is. And we'll talk more about that. But go ahead. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just like sort of wondering, do you think that now that CM Punk is gone from AEW, and that drama that goes with all of the things that go on around him,
drama in AEW locker room will not cease just because CM Punk is gone. There were problems before him. CM Punk has not been the only person that caused issues, so I think there'll probably be a lot less.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, do you think that the perception that people will have of AEW, because perception is key with a lot of people, is that, well, now that thorn is out of their side, maybe I'm feeling more comfortable going over there.
Possibly, but I think it's more of how at least for the women's side of thing. I mean, I'm sure.
I mean, I don't think it's only that.
You have to look at the whole picture, but I think it's
I wouldn't go to AEW
how
either.
the women are booked. But then the women have had issues. Like we've seen the stuff with Britt and Thunder Rosa.
Yep.
There's supposedly been the sandbagging stuff. There's all that. Then there was Lufisto's side of things and how we talked about the reaction that Lufisto got when she tried to talk about her experience, how they all ganged up on her and, made her feel like her experience wasn't valid because it wasn't their experience. And so I'm sure they look at that too. And do you want to be in a locker room where if you get her, and like we talked about that too with Jamie Hayter wrestling injured, did she wrestle injured because she saw how Britt Baker kept going after Thunder Rosa for having a back injury? Did she think that so that could be a perception, is that the AEW's locker room is filled with mean girls? Like that could be a perception too, on top of how women are booked. Is their locker room, are outsiders welcome in that locker room? Because the way they treated Lufisto sure seems like maybe it's not. So I think that has a lot, I think there's a lot of factors. And sure, CM Punk could have been, having him there and the drama that comes along with it. That certainly could have been something that they're like, they don't book the women that well. CM Punk is there and it seems kind of toxic. The women's locker room seems a little toxic. I think I'll go back to where I know I'm taken care of. So, it could be all of it. It could be a whole bunch of different factors. And, I think that's a fair question to ask. So we have says just watched Alex Windsor versus High End versus Mickey James at Rev Pro's 11th anniversary show. The entire match was half of the 4,000 in attendance were singing hardcore country Mickey's Impact theme song. That's awesome. So they do care about women's
They do care, I guess.
They do care.
It is possible. I think it's a better way of
the argument.
I think that's a better way of putting it.
They're small, but it doesn't come from the fact that they don't care. He also says Alex Windsor is one to keep your eye on in the UK scene, and Charlie Morgan, so much talent in the UK. I've heard both of those names, so that is a good thing that's a good reminder. Thank you for that, because we always want to support great women's wrestlers wherever they're at. So thank you for that. So we did mention CM Punk. We don't want to spend a lot of time because this is actually a pre-show for the All Out.
Well, we need to get to the card a little bit. We won't like
so I did want to make sure that
we do have to mention it because we kind of are the first show that's on since.
Right. And we also the women's segment was planned basically the minute that I saw that clip. I was like, well, I know what we're talking about. And then this happened yesterday. So it was not funny, but so I was actually working on a story, another article about something else. And so I wasn't looking at my phone or anything. I'm trying to get this article written.
I missed it too.
And I see a text come from the group text, and it's somebody who is not very active in our group. Like he follows along. So when he sends something, I was like, because Nikki said, oh, what did he send? She was like, what did he send? Because he never because he's really busy with stuff. And so he just kind of
must be big if he's
conversation.
hosting.
But when he contributes to the conversations, there's generally a reason why. So we both were like, okay. So I stopped what I was doing, opened the text message, and there's the press release. And I read the press release, and then I was like, this is legit, right? Like, this is from AEW's account. It's not like a fake, like, you know, how they'll have like an AVW account and it's not really AEW's account. Like, I was like, God, this is like the legitimately this before I start sending it to people.
A3W1659420 underscore.
Is this the troll account? And so I even checked, my email was open, and I was like, did they send out a press release to the media? Like, is this like, and they didn't, but sometimes they don't. So then I was like, well, that doesn't mean it's not legit. And I was like, no, that says AEW and it's got the check mark. Like, this looks legit. So I'm going to send this. So I sent it to every single, so I'm in 4 Slack groups related to wrestling, and I sent it to everybody. So I was the one who got to break the news to everybody, and I was like, okay, this is real. It is like 6 o'clock. It's like, Collision's gonna be on in 2 hours.
Yep.
Tomorrow's the pay-per-view. And so I was talking to one of my editors, and I was like, he was like, we need somebody on this. And I was like, well, I'm in the middle of another article right now, but I can, you know, hop on this. And he was like, please, we need to get something out immediately. This is a huge story. Please get on it. And
at least you get a lot of good practice writing. So
this is true.
I mean, it's
so then like
eventually like you'll be glad that you had to do all this crap. Okay. One day you'll be sitting there going, I'm glad I had to write that stupid CM Punk article though. Yeah, there'll be one thing you learn from it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and so I was like, let me stop what I'm doing. Listen, I've written plenty of breaking news stories on Vince McMahon the last year and a half. So I was just like, okay. So it's like, sorry. So I was actually writing an article about Calvin Tankman. He is now a free agent. He left MLW. So poor Calvin Tankman. I was like, sorry, buddy. I gotta put you on hold for a couple of hours. So I'm trying to get this out. My Slack is going off, and like multiple Slacks are like, oh my God, what happens? Some people in Slack then there was some like turn into a little bit of an AEW locker room where, you know, no physicality, but there was a lot of bickering back and forth. And I was like, and my phone Slack is like ding, ding. I was like, I'm about to have to mute this. Then my text groups are I have multiple text groups going off about what's happening. And I was like, just gotta get this article out. So
glad that I keep my notification. It's so funny because the Viking Media Slack things doesn't always work. Sometimes the notification pops up and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know what that's about. And I really haven't like looked into rectifying it. So,
hey, I understand. But yeah,
it was hilarious for me because I watched Jim Valley's show and I listened to Observer Live with him and had some good fun and went off to make some homemade barbecue sauce and do some ribs and whatever else.
Far better use of your time.
I walked away from my phone. And then my wrestling group lit up.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a small group, but it was like buzzing. And I'm like, what's up, you guys? Yeah. And I just went in there and all it said was, sayonara, Phil. And I was like, oh, dear. And I did this. I looked at the clock and I was like, what? I'm like, I'm about to start my grill.
Yeah, Mel messaged me and she was like, I guess our show for tomorrow just took a turn, and I didn't get to answer her for like an hour and a half because I was trying to I was like, I gotta answer
I figured you had heard
trying
before
to write
me.
this out, and then I was like, I have to go back. I was like, I've got to stop looking. And then of course I'm looking at the internet to see if there's other things coming out. Was there anything about Jack Perry?
Well, and then I went to my channels and the people that I trust that predict or tell or like I went to the sources that I was like, are you like, no, come on. Come on. Yeah. And then I went to one of my circles of truth and sure enough, it was the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
It was just, I was just like, I mean, I guess like it wasn't unexpected, but then on the other hand, maybe it's because of the timing. I mean, like, of course, like, I don't think this was like, let's drop this now so people tune into Collision. Like, I don't think it was anything like that. Like, I think they were.
It was that at all.
I don't think there's some big grand thing that, oh, this is going up against Payback. We got to send Tony out here to make a statement. Like, I don't think there.
And I would be
any type. I mean, it was smart to open with that going up against when Payback. Like, Tony's not stupid. But I don't think it was this big scheme of like Payback.
Oh no, there was. I don't feel like that was
like. I don't think it was anything like that. then I saw last night I saw this theory, and I think it's one of those Twitter accounts. It was the verified Twitter accounts. I think it's one of those accounts that clearly gets paid for engagement by Twitter. So they just say shit and then walk away. Somebody responded to it was like they responded to, I think it was Fightful, and it was the clip of Tony addressing the audience, and she was like, I think this is a work, and was talking about like his hand gestures or like whatever dumb reasons she thought it was a work. And she was like, this is somebody responded and said, so she thinks that she claims she thinks it's a work. I think she was getting engagement to get paid by Twitter, probably. But then somebody responded and said, this is Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold, except for the people are supporting the corporation. I was like, you guys, it's not what's happening. I know that we have a lot of people have WWE brain, and we've seen things play out, and sometimes you stop and question, like, am I being worked?
They are making politics Twitter look really smart sometimes.
And so I was just like, but I just kept scrolling because I was like, that's clearly, I think this is not that listen, I do think some people do think these things. Like, I don't think that, but I think the person who originally posted, she had like 100,000 followers. She's got a blue check mark that she pays for. I was like, she's probably one of those accounts that gets paid for engagement or whatever. But I was just like, and I guess like some people were just, I think, surprised that Tony came out on Collision, because before, he's not really public. Like the last time when Brawl Out happened and all that stuff, he didn't like go on. Obviously, didn't go on. Well, actually, he did. He went on TV and said that there were suspensions, so he did do that, but it wasn't the whole like, I guess, explanation behind it. But I think part of the reason Tony did that is because he was criticized so much, because he didn't shut the scrum down when CM Punk was like going off on a tangent. He just let him say what he had to say. And again, we've talked about some people are not good in reactionary situations like that. It takes them a while to process. And so, we've had our conversations about why he did or didn't do things. But I think because there had been so much on Tony about how he handled it the first time, that he did something different this time, as far as going out, grabbing a chair, sitting down, addressing the fans directly. Obviously, it was pre-recorded to play at the very beginning. When he first came out, before he started explaining stuff, he was getting booed out of the building by fans. And then it sounds like from people who were in the building that I've seen, like a couple of my editors were in the building, a couple other people I follow on Twitter were in the building, and they were saying that the fans in the beginning, a lot of them obviously were booing him, but then as he was going, they kind of realized, okay, this is a really serious situation. He did what he had to do. There was a committee behind it that recommended that he fired CM Punk. There's legal who requested, who thought the same thing. And Tony even said in his statement, at the end of the day, it is my decision. I did this thing, and it seemed like fans kind of, because I didn't really hear, like on TV, like it wasn't a hijacking of the show of people chanting, CM Punk's name. There was a guy dressed.
There was a start of it, but it really seemed like there were a few times that happened.
Yeah, it never caught on, as in like it picked on the TV. There was a guy who was dressed like LA Knight who tried to start a what chant at Tony Schiavone. But there wasn't it wasn't the hijacking that people, I mean, who knows what All Out's gonna be like. I mean, that could be a completely different story, especially you have people who probably tailgated and been drinking things of that nature. But I think him kind of getting out ahead of it probably did help kind of chill, because wrestling fans are wrestling fans. Some are just gonna be jerks and they're just gonna boo and make it about themselves and all of that type of stuff anyway. But I think I'm hoping for the most part that people don't, that they don't tonight, that they're not out there calling for him and things like that, and like hijacking the show and making it about themselves. That way the wrestler, because the wrestlers on the card, like, it's not their fault. Like Nikki pointed out, this was like the stuff with MJF and Wardlow. Like, they almost ruined Wardlow's night because we were on MJF. We were on MJF watch, and is he in Vegas? Is he getting on the plane? Like, is it all of this? And so it was kind of that stuff, like, which is another reason I think that Tony came out last night, because not only is the CM Punk stuff he was criticized for how he handled MJF before, because this isn't the first time this stuff has happened, and it has happened with other wrestlers. And so I think that last night was Tony kind of finally he did, I guess, what a lot of fans expected him to do the last time, or with the MJF situation and things like that. And so this time around, he's like trying to make people understand, like, and so I guess I can see why people thought that this was his version of the Mr. McMahon character.
I don't see that
I don't
at
think
all.
that's what's happening here.
That's not what I saw at all. As a matter of fact, I don't think that this makes Tony happy at all. I think that Tony wanted Punk more than anybody. I think it probably is very depressing to Tony. I think
Sure.
I think the fact that it got to the point that it got to, and I think that reading the Observer accounts are valuable because Dave lays them all out. There's so many, but I mean, there's unequivocal video and eyewitness.
I was gonna say
evidence.
there's video that I was like, I think the video and the eye account of people who
I think Tony is one of those people.
There's somebody who was a non-wrestler who that could have been somebody from security, that could have been it could have been a production person, it could have been a pyro person, it could have been
Tony himself.
Tony was there, and that's known. So I feel like there could have been in that.
I mean, the
it could have been an employee from Wembley for all we know.
Yeah, or someone that's back there because, like, Dave. I was listening to Dave and Brian. I was trying to get caught up on what the most recent news was this morning, and they were talking about the fact that they have people, and because they do like interviews and such in that area for the football games, they actually are basically everything is on camera all the time, and they do have like secure staff and whatever not.
Sure.
Regardless, I think the point here is that, like, I don't think that Tony was happy, and I think that the reason he came out and faced the music was because it was his decision, and it was not something he wanted to see happen. And it wasn't because, and it was the day before it being in his hometown. And I actually give him credit for being like, that's his job. He did his job.
Right. Which is what we've been asking for a really long time.
That was,
so it's not a Mr. McMahon character. It
not
was
at
Tony.
all. I don't think.
I didn't read that.
Honestly, I think Tony would be happy.
It didn't. Yeah, when Tony came out there, like, that's not what I didn't even think. Oh, this is a work. Like, I thought, okay, this is Tony getting out ahead of it. He's explaining.
He's being the owner and the
right. He's being the person that he should be, and he's doing his job. And so, like, it never once crossed my mind that he was trying to be a TV character or a Mr. McMahon type of character. Like, until I saw that comment, and I was like, what? Like, I know that, and I was like, I don't see that being the thing. I don't see this being a work. What are you working towards if it is a work? Like, that's
there's
the thing.
No
because my friend was like, it kind of, and I was like, but what would he be working towards? Like,
there's he's
like,
too big of a draw for on paper, like, for that to be even a realistic kind of. This is literally like, you have no choice. This person potentially endangered safety. Like, we need to be done with this.
Yeah,
move on.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. It'll be interesting to see how things reset. One of my biggest questions, and I thought about this as I was writing the article last night, and I tweeted it too, is what happens to Collision? Because a lot of its success is because of the way it's booked, and CM Punk was heavily involved in creative. So how do you keep it from becoming Rampage 2.0 and keep it being this distinct thing that fans were really into, especially because you have college football coming up, and it was already going to get killed in the ratings by that.
Well, Brian Danielson's
was an anchor for some reasons. For some people, CM Punk was the reason they tuned in. Warner Brothers clearly brought him in for that. So how do you keep, like, that's the thing, is who is a big star? Like,
Brian Danielson.
You have Miro, you have Powerhouse House, but Miro at this point, the way he is booked, Miro is not somebody that anchors that show. You've got the Elite and of course I did hear last night that they said that they told Warner Brother that the soft brand split is over. But so do you book John Moxley? John Moxley does stuff on the indies. He's going to do an indie show. He showed up Thursday night in AEW and stopped Mance Warner from winning a match. He's got a storyline going. He's got a storyline there. He's regularly at Wrestling Revolver. He will be there next month. He will be there. Actually, Renee will be there as well, because before that they're doing a women's Grand Prix, and she's the special guest announcer. So he has stuff that he does things on Saturday nights.
Mhm.
So, like, who do you have Kenny Omega go to Collision to bring in ratings? Now Danielson is back at the
I
time.
do think it's Bryan Danielson. He's somebody that he's been doing a lot of, I think, backstage booking, and I think people respect him and his leadership and
Well,
the
yeah,
way
so
that
there was a quote from Tony from Variety, I think it was, where he said that he told his dad that if something happens to him, that he wants Danielson to book.
I heard that too.
Which is really that says a lot. And so, yeah, see, but
I mean, the dude is wicked smart.
I hope that, but you do have problems when you have active wrestlers in charge of booking. That could be
Of course,
big
that's
issue.
lifelong.
Not that I think Danielson's going into business for himself or anything like that, but I'm just saying you have to be careful with that. And Danielson's got a lot on his plate as it is. He's still recovering.
I mean, in theory, he
What was
could. Well, in theory, I mean, he could book and not wrestle, and that would give him life freedom. And
It would, but does he want to do that? Like, does he?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to wrestle on Dynamite and book Collision.
Perhaps.
Maybe it's irrelevant because they've got these things all figured out. Maybe they'll
think
hire like John Muse or
I'm
something.
thinking they're working as they go at this point.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that John Muse is Dave's favorite booker, so maybe they should get John Muse in on this thing.
There you go. So Dawson said CM Punk at one time in the ROH shoes was my favorite wrestler, and I was so hyped watching his rise to the top, and I'm sad to see how it turned out to be. He's been my favorite for a really long time. I don't excuse any of the things that he did. I do think there's a lot going on. I do think there's a lot of I was just thinking about it last night, like, how do you let it get to this point? And again, this is not an excuse, and I'm not a doctor. I do feel like there's a lot of self-sabotage here just because it's what he does. And again, that may be a tiny part of it, but I'm just looking at the whole thing. Like, how do you get to this point?
Well, just because you don't have perceived vices, like you don't do drugs and you don't drink and you don't do coffee and all the whole thing, doesn't mean that you don't have mental health issues that are very significant.
Right. And that's certainly a concern.
People use those things, but like they, when people go for like sobriety and recovery and so forth, they have to fill that hole. So they learn to golf, or they learn to knit, or they learn.
Right.
And I don't know if Phil has hobbies outside, and I don't know what looking at yourself in the mirror and like looking around for people who have slighted you cannot be
not a
hobby that you fill your time with. Like, it can't be what you fill your time with.
Right.
Especially today, right now in the world, where you can go online and be convinced of anything if you sit on that void long enough. Like, you sit on Twitter or any timeline, any comment section long enough, your brain is going to start melting into like madness. It's and
I just hope I hope whatever is going on, I hope mentally he is okay. I hope mentally Tony Khan's okay. I hope a lot of them, I hope that people get the help that they need to get. We're very strong advocates for mental health, and maybe Jack Perry is going through some anger issues or something like that. Maybe of course I'm not blaming him for but I'm just maybe, and we even talked about it with Cash Wheeler with his situation. Like, maybe there's some mental health issues going on that need to be addressed.
There's clearly mental health issues there.
And so
you don't flash guns at people if you're healthy.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. And
I'm not a doctor, and I don't need to be.
Sure.
Healthy people don't
just in
brandish
general. So
weapons
when you look at these people, I hope that everybody is just mentally okay and get the help that they need, because therapy is probably a good thing for some people. I do still think that maybe they need to bring it. I know the wrestling locker room is not the same job as working in CVS or working in an office environment. However, you work for a national TV corporation.
Well, I mean, you're fronting as a sports organization. You can have a sports psychiatrist in.
So that's why they should maybe bring in somebody who helps them learn how to have conflict resolution that does not involve fists, because that's been what they have learned their whole lives in independent locker rooms where they're getting paid with, you know, a hot dog and a handshake and things like that. And so that's how they settle their differences. But, you know, maybe conflict resolution classes for everybody would not be a bad idea. Maybe have an option if they think their anger is out of control, maybe have an option to help them go to anger management courses or get some mental health help that they need. Maybe, you know, and I don't know what AEW has in place. Maybe they have things in place already that we just don't know about. But, you know, conflict resolution might be something they want to look into. So, so now that we've spent
all right, so we
all
did
this time talking about this stuff, we
talked about Punk. There you go. You got our weigh in. We weighed in.
There is a pay-per-view today. We didn't have to rush through like last week.
Now I don't have every single picture.
That's
they
fine.
Didn't have every single picture.
0 Hour basically got announced last night at the end.
I think I might
Collision.
have here. Let's see.
So if you don't have them, I do have the matches written down in our notes.
All right. And which one is the 0 Hour one?
One of the 0 Hour matches. So one of the matches that was made last night is this one actually played out on Collision and was not announced in the rundown like the other two was. So this match was actually made last night. The Acclaimed are putting their trios titles on the line against Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Jay Lethal, and Dennis Rodman will be ringside for this one.
Do not think.
Yeah, you may not have the image because this was literally made on air last night. Like, I don't know how long this has been the plan. I mean, Dennis Rodman was going to be at StarCast anyway. So I think once Tony was like, he's going to be at Collision, we have to get him in Chicago.
Because I don't remember making anything fun for the Acclaim.
Okay. So yeah, that match got made last night. The Acclaimed are putting their brand new titles that are hot pink and scissor in the back.
I love their
on the line because, you know, wherever there's going to be a celebrity, Jeff Jarrett has to be there. So
true story.
and I'm sure that Karen Jarrett will probably be out there. I'm sure Satnam Singh will be out there as well because they are traveling a pack. So we have that. I assume the Acclaimed retain because they just won those titles. I don't know if you have anything to add about that match.
I mean, I'm sure they'll retain. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's a feature match. That's a
in a weekend
gimmick match.
It's so funny to see Dennis Rodman here in a weekend that has had. So yesterday I watched Effie's Big Gay Brunch. They had Baby Bop in the Twink Gauntlet. Which was great, but we don't want him to get in trouble for copyright infringement. So it's Baby Bop with like 3 P's and extra O's and stuff, extra
That's
Y's.
Pretty funny.
We don't want him. And so it turns out it was Jimmy Lloyd was dressed up. He beat Pero though, and so Baby Bop won a match yesterday.
Awesome.
Then last night we watched Wrestling Revolver, and there was a match, and it was Matthew Palmer. Who some of you may know as Athena's husband. And it was him versus Tyler Breeze and Dan the Dad. And so they come out, they do their normal entrances, and then Palmer decides, you know what, I'm going to redo my entrance. So he goes back, Triple H's music hits. So he comes out and he's got the water bottle, his hair is wet, he's got water in his mouth, and he nearly choked on it. He's walking with his arms out like Triple H. It was really great.
Oh my God.
So then they were like, well, if he gets a new entrance, I get a new entrance. So Dan the Dad goes to the back, comes back out to John Cena's music, comes out with like 5 or 6 dudes dressed up as dads. And so they do this whole little entrance. Well, then Tyler Breeze goes to the back. And so Nikki thought he was going to come out to New Day's theme, which would have been perfect.
Oh, my God.
Instead, Breezeberg pops up on the screen and he comes out. He does the Goldberg entrance, like where the camera's following him around.
Oh my gosh.
Coming out and like was great. Watch it was just so much fun. Well, then Palmer was like, "No, I gotta come out again." So we're expecting like another wrestler. He comes out to the time warp and he's dressed like Frankenfooter.
Oh,
it
what
was
a great way to get
incredible.
started in the fall. That's a great way to kick off fall.
Right, exactly. So he wrestled
Good
in
timing.
that year.
Excellent.
Like he's wrestling like poor. He has like stock like knee highs on and like the toe ripped.
That's
in his
fun.
knee highs. I mean, it was really great. And
I'm
then
fun.
It was so much fun.
I'm fine
So,
with that. That sounds fun.
the match was a lot of fun. It was just, especially in like so yesterday. So I got Baby Bop, somebody wrestling as Frankenfooter. Now I'm getting Dennis Rodman. So last night I told Nikki, I was like, how can you have Baby Bop and Frankenfooter and tell me that pro wrestling is not the best form of entertainment? I was like, it was so much fun. I was like, sometimes wrestling can be really dumb, but sometimes it can be a lot of fun.
It's like I always tell people it's like you wouldn't try to explain Twin Peaks to someone and you can't try and explain pro wrestling either.
True.
It's
you have
like
to experience for yourself.
Either you can watch it and like it and understand, like get it while you're watching it, or you can't.
Right.
But it's really one of those things that's like, you can't spoil it and you can't explain it. And if you try and explain it, every time you're like, okay, I know that sounded really dumb. And it's about to get dumber.
Yeah, exactly. Nikki said all of it was hilarious, but I popped big time for Frankenfurter. Oh yeah, Nikki and I were losing it.
Like, I love that. I mean,
Nikki and I are huge Rocky Horror fans, and so we were just all over it. And it was funny because
the four of us should all hang out and watch it some night on Netflix.
We should.
Bob is like the world's biggest Rocky Horror.
Let's tell Garrett that for the monthly hangout, we should do a watch along of Rocky Horror.
Oh yeah, we've got one of those coming soon. We
should do, and if nobody else wants to participate in the happy hour, we'll just do our own. Like if they're part of the $10 tier, come hang out with us, and we'll do a watch along of Rocky.
Oh man,
I told Nikki last night though, after watching Palmer wrestle, I was like, now I need an entire match or show with people dressed as characters from Rocky Horror. I need that match to happen. Because Nikki said Dan the Dad is definitely Brad, which is true. And then I was like, Breeze would have been Rocky. So I was like, I need this. I need someone to put this match together for me and dress as characters from Rocky Horror. I need them to come out to the theme. I need them to all stop the match to do the time warp in the middle of the ring. Like I need all of it. I hope somebody can make my dream come true. I need it to happen.
This sounds amazing.
Funny, this match happened on a card that had like the main. This is the first match back after intermission, and the main event was Alex Colon versus Jake Chris in a no rope barbed wire match. So it was extremely bloody, which a few times because I'm getting a little bit better with death matches and things like that. But like there were times that I was watching like I can't like, and it's funny because like one of the first matches I saw Alex Colon in, they were throwing darts and there was a dart hanging out of his back. I was just like watching with like my eyes covered. So it's funny that wrestling, especially independent wrestling, can have these really silly matches and then have things like this. Then there was a match that had Tommy Dreamer in it and there were Legos in the match. So
worse than thumbtacks.
Yes. So there's some crazy stuff. Daza said Rocky Horror is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Big same. Grace said some people laugh, others need an explanation.
Yeah.
Fair.
True story.
Colin said the fans singing hardcore country nonstop at the Rev Pro show got quite irritating according to some tweets I saw. Yeah, I can imagine that after a little bit, that's a lot. But that's how wrestling fans are. They
fans like to beat that dead horse.
we like to chant like when it was like post COVID stuff where they're doing wrestling shows. So like they're sanitizing the ring between each match. And so then some wrestling fans would chant sanitize just because fans like to chant things.
We here in Detroit during the Progress show, because our Knights of Columbus Hall obviously has a lot of the Jesus symbology. And there was a cross near above the ring, and we all decided because Jim was looking around, Jim Smallman was looking around going, I don't think I've seen this much Jesus in one of our venues. And we all started chanting for Jesus. So,
there was a time
Progress Wrestling in Detroit got a Jesus chant, and
this reminds me, we had PWX had Adam Cole a few years ago, like before he was in WWE, and they started chanting "Sexy Jesus" at him.
Nice. Smallman was cracking up. He's like, I did not expect a Jesus chant on this tour, but that's why I love you guys. Like, I mean, it was great. It was a lot of fun. That was a great show. Progress, that was like heyday Progress. You know, Tony Storm was still there. You know, British Strong Style. I mean, we had a lot of fun that night. Walter was there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I saw one thing that's actually really fun. It reminds me of Walter, and I think about it all the time. So Walter was there. He was in PWX. This was before he signed with WWE. It was the time where he's like, I'm not moving to America.
Right.
I will not. So he was with someone who shall not be named because they were named in Speaking Out. So we will not talk about that person. But so there used to be a person who would make wrestling themed cupcakes, and there was somebody, and they had a peanut butter chocolate type of cupcake, and he was like, ew. Walter said, who would eat peanut butter with chocolate? And I was like, because my man never had a Reese's cup before. But it was just, he was like disgusted by the thought of peanut butter and chocolate. It's like, maybe this is not a thing from where he's from. Maybe this is an American thing. I don't know, but
that's okay. I'm pretty sure where he's from, they put mayonnaise on their French fries, and I find that absolutely revolting. So
yeah, I can't. I don't like mayonnaise as it is.
Exactly.
Nikki knew the sexy Jesus story was coming. All right, now that we have veered way off topic,
all right,
we'll bring it back. Yeah. So
before it's like the 0 hour, then we're going into
So other than the Acclaimed, another match that was announced last night is the over budget charity battle royale. The winner of this match will get $50,000 to the charity of their choice. We don't know who will be in this over budget charity match, which is funny because they talked about doing a battle royale at All In on 0 Hour there was rumors that they were going to do one to get a lot of wrestlers on the card. That would actually be a callback to the original All In, because they did have the over the budget battle royale where they brought in, this had men and women, like Jordan Grace was in it, Brian Cage was in it, and Jordan Grace picked up Brian Cage. Like that's like the big standout from this match still 5 years later. But they had like a ton of people in it, and it was not for charity. So yeah, we don't know the participants involved in this. So that'll be, maybe it's some of the ROH people. Maybe they put the Workhorsemen in it. I don't know. We don't know who will be in this match. I guess we will find out when the bell rings this evening. They did shove a women's match on here.
Here it is. Yeah.
So on the media scrum this week, when he was talking about Athena, he said that he was waiting to see if Billy Starks would be cleared so that they could put her and Athena in a match, which I don't know why you can't just have Athena defend her ROH championship when you've already got multiple ROH wrestlers. There are 5, not including Athena at the time, before this match was announced, there are 5 ROH champions on this card tonight. 3 of them are in title matches. So they could have easily done like an open challenge for Athena to defend her title. Anything like that. But then at the end, he did say, well, if Billy's not cleared, we could see Athena on 0 Hour. So Tony had no plans for her to ever be on the card, it sounds like. So now we do get Athena her and Mercedes Martinez and Diamante. So Mercedes and Diamante, if you're not been watching Collision, the two of them have been working together. Tony actually mentioned on the call that Mercedes asked to work with Diamante. She thought that they could do some cool stuff together. So that is a cool thing to see. Mercedes is obviously who Athena beat to become champion at Final Battle last year. She's wrestled Diamante before, so there is kind of that thing that will play out in the, I guess, if they can coexist trope.
Right.
Then on the other side of the ring, it's Willow, Sheeta, and Sky Blue. So I love all the women in this match. This match is just there to get women on the card.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of... It's still just here. Let me check this off my list. Oh, I gotta have 2 matches. Let's put one on 0 hour. So this comes into what we talked about earlier. But yeah, so as of now, those are the only 3 matches announced, which I would assume it stays that way. They used to do 4 matches. They kind of got away from that and had just been doing the 2 matches, and then letting the Wrestle Ants kind of fill in on everything else. So we're getting a 3rd match here. So that's 0 hour. Do you have any thoughts on the 0 hour?
No,
card?
I mean this whole thing has felt pretty like and I'm not doing the building and it's just the whole thing has been there's been so much going on that it feels like not thrown together but a little thrown together.
Yeah, some of it does. And so Tony was asked during the post show scrum, and then it was asked again on the media call this week. Tony is planning to keep All Out on the he said All Out is one of the bigger pay-per-views. We always have it Labor Day weekend, or Memorial Day weekend rather.
No, you were
right.
I
was right the first time. Okay. Yes.
You had
Labor Day weekend, and then All In will stay on the bank holiday weekend the week before. He did seem to hint that All Out could move away from Chicago potentially, maybe not. He didn't say when, but he is considering other options, I guess. So it doesn't sound like it necessarily will always be in Chicago. Who knows if he will actually follow through with that, because he keeps talking about how Illinois was really important to him because that's where he grew up. Before his dad bought the Jaguars, he had never spent more than 2 consecutive weeks outside of Chicago. So Illinois, and so now he can work from home. He doesn't have to be in Jacksonville. And so Chicago clearly means a lot to him. And then being in these venues, like he's talked about, like one of the venues he went to, he said he's seen like hundreds of basketball games there. And so like he definitely has a lot of nostalgia built into the way he books things. And so, because somebody asked him on the media call, like, where is it now that you've done Wembley? Like, where do you want to go next? And he was like just talking about like different nostalgic reasons he's booked things. And so now he was like, so it sounds like he could potentially book somewhere that has some kind of, because he talked about the Forum and how that meant a lot to him to be able to put on a show on there. And then obviously he's like, we've never held a show actually in it's not TIA Bank anymore. I think it's Everbank or Ever something is what the Jaguars
I'm not sure,
he's talking about maybe potentially having a show like in that stadium instead of Daly's Place, which is obviously connected to the stadium. So Chicago clearly means a lot to him. So I would not be surprised if All Out just stays in Chicago forever. But we'll see. But it seems like he's going to do so. Hopefully now that he's kind of got this under his belt, maybe next year he'll do a little bit better with planning 2 cards that are 8 days apart. So,
yeah,
but
he's done it before now. So.
Seems like we're going to be dealing with that for a while. And then I guess
he has the experience,
right? So. And he can see what he can improve on and how far in advance he needs to start looking at stuff, especially like when they plan year to year, like what they're going to do. And obviously, you have to, there's injuries and things like that come up that you have to deal with as well, so that you got to have your like backup matches and things like that. But we'll go ahead and get into the main card, and we are just doing this. And whatever order Mel's picture comes up.
Okay, well, I only have a few, so let's put them. I'll just add them, and we can see that's 6. Let's go back to 1 and see what. I just put them in no particular order, so
that works.
We talk about this one. This was the one that was easy. I could find the picture for this one because it's been playing forever. So
been playing for a while. We had the official contract signing last week while our show was going on.
That's right.
So we have Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs are finally in a big meaty men slap and meat match. What do you think about this one? Who you got as your winner here? Or any other
Um,
thoughts you want to add about this match?
I'm glad this match is finally taking place. I hope it's a good match. I hope that it gets its time. I'm a huge Powerhouse fan, so my heart is
Same.
with Powerhouse. But I mean, I'm okay with either guy. And
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that if Miro does win, that he cuts a scorching promo on God, because his promos on God are some of my favorite things that exist in wrestling right now.
My biggest hope for this match is still what I've been talking about for weeks, is that Miro comes out with the Redeemer from Righteous Gemstones. I want him to come out on stage in the monster truck that's called the Redeemer, and I want Miro to come out.
Jim Bailey's a big Gemstones fan. He might
That's
be
what
into
I
that.
have been wanting. And somebody this week on Dynamite had a sign that said Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers, which was a big thing from this season.
I will catch up on it, because
I posted a picture.
enough people that I respect dig it. So
That tweet got like 22 likes on it. Just me saying that there is a sign that said that. I mean, I did include a picture of Uncle Baby Billy, so that's probably also what got the attention. But yes, so I really hope that he comes out in the Redeemer. I hope that Danny McBride is a fan of AEW and hooked him up and got him. I hope Tony shelled out the money to make it happen, because that would be incredible. I love both of these guys. Powerhouse has had a lot of starts and stops with his booking. It seems like he can never get going. He still has that damn book, a physical book that he brings out. Miro has had some starts and stops too, and he's been crushing people like Anthony Henry, who I love. He's been running through some of the enhancement talent. So they both could use the win desperately. I hope whoever wins, that they book them properly. So I would be happy with either person winning this match. And I do want more promos on God, because they're amazing.
Agreed. Totally a God promo. All right, let's see what's the next picture. What's the next picture? It's the ladies match. Should I have saved this for later? Are you ready to talk about
No, we might as well just talk about it. This is the lone women's match on the main card. It is Kris Statlander is putting her title on the line against Ruby Soho. It was a little interesting that they went with this match, just because they are not feuding. Ruby is obviously in the Outcast storyline. Mercedes Martinez is who Kris has been. She's kind of feuded with her a little bit. She's feuded with Diamante. But Ruby did debut in Chicago. I believe Ruby says that Kris has never beaten her, so that kind of adds to the story. And Kris does she needs various people to wrestle and things like that. So I kind of get it, but it also feels like Ruby Soho needs something to do, because she didn't get to wrestle on All In. So let's give her a title match 8 days later, is how it feels to me. I think the match will be great. It has nothing to do with them. It's just, again, the booking. I hope they get more than 8 minutes and 44 seconds.
That would be nice.
I don't know. Maybe we do see Tony and Saraya get involved. Saraya missed last week because she was sick, but she was on Collision last night. They were doing a backstage segment with her and Ruby.
There were a bunch of people that were exposed and had COVID. So,
yeah. Swerve was sick, and that's why he missed Wednesday as well. And so, yeah. So, yeah.
And there was a hurricane. So
there was a hurricane. I know for sure that kept
that was definitely not like a joke. That was
I saw thing. Unfortunately, on Monday, Matt Hardy's wife posted that they were supposed to be going to Florida for Bray Wyatt's funeral, and their flight got canceled because of the hurricane. And so I'm sure they were not the only ones, and so it was bad getting. And so thankfully AEW let them stay safe and stay home. But yeah, so. This match is what it is. I think it'll be a good match. It's not Ruby and Chris's fault. And I think they'll make the best of what they're given. And hopefully they're given at least 10 minutes. We did not talk about Sunny Kiss being fired, which I should have when I was talking about Big Gay Brunch, because she was on Big Gay Brunch yesterday. And
I didn't know that.
She was in the main event. Her and Pimpinella wrestled Bussy. And it was a blast. And Sunny is incredible. And I tweeted that I don't know how you fumble the bag with Sunny Kiss. she's so good. I did see that she was at Sarcast on Friday. But yeah, I saw some reports that she had been hurt. She was no longer on the roster. I went and looked for myself. Sunny is not on the roster. I mean, it's not a complete surprise. I mean, she was doing stuff in ROH with Trustbusters, but hasn't been on TV in a while. She's been.
Remember that.
Sunny is somebody that fans got behind like they did with Emmy and wanted her on TV, and they just, for whatever reason, would not do it. And I hope that wherever Sunny goes next, I hope they utilize them properly. I hope they give them spotlight, give them the talent. I hope Sunny gets the bag wherever they go. And I hope that Sunny, I really hate that for her. And I mean, maybe it's the best for her. Maybe it'll free her up to do some other stuff. I know that she graduated from college earlier this year. She got her degree. So I hope the best for her. And I really, really hate that her AEW career panned out the way that it did, because she has a ton of talent and she was representation for people who don't get a lot of representation. And I hate that, that she's not here anymore. And I hope that she kills it wherever she goes next. And I will support her wherever she's at. For sure. All right. And also, I guess I should go back with that last match. I do think Chris retains.
I also think Chris retains. I don't understand what they're doing with this belt. They rushed her back. They put her in this position, and now it feels very much like they're not. I mean, they had like this huge thing where they built the belt up with Jade, and they made it an important belt. And then they put her in, and then it seems like the belt has.
They waited. The thing that was really weird is like they waited for Chris to return from injury to have her take this belt. Like, where in the meantime, Jade could have dropped that title to Ruby. Ruby is the person she beat, which is another facet to this match. Ruby made it all the way to the finals to become the first champion, and Jade beat her. So that is the story here. And I had somebody ask, like, can Ruby lose this big of a match again? But they keep doing it to Willow.
I mean, I think she will.
I think if you wait that long for Chris Statlander to come back to put the title on her and then have her drop it
and rush it on her.
Yeah.
And they rushed it on her too. They didn't it wasn't like they took their time to get it back on her.
No, she came in and which Jade had been doing open challenges for several weeks leading up to this, but that's why
killed like all of the moment, like everything that Jade did to build that belt into a like viable belt. Like it feels like they've lost anything or they're quickly losing. Like that sand is going out of that hourglass really, really fast on like what she. So it kind of feels like they wasted all that time with Jade Cargill doing what they were doing. And now that it's like, and Chris Statlander's like the legit, like she should be able to be facing opponents and building that belt and doing those things. So
and like she had a really great match with Mercedes on Collision like 3 weeks ago. And so if they
rush her into the belt, but they're not doing anything with her.
If they invest in her and invest in that title, we wouldn't be having these problems and feeling a little bit of lack coming into this. And Daza says that Chris is a dream. She looks like a star and a badass. And if you see her on the RJ show, she has a really fun, goofy, likable personality, and she's the total package. But they don't present her that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unfortunately, it just goes into investing into these women.
All right, let me see now.
So we'll go into the next match.
I'm gonna see if I have, because I think no, I don't. All right, we're going with this one. We are gonna put this one on the screen. This one.
So this match is the one this was the first match made for All Out.
The dad hater.
Or if you're Nigel, Father of the Year. Will be out there. So this match is actually, because in case you are not aware, Luchasaurus is actually the TNT champion.
Yeah, weird, right? It is kind of funny when Christian cuts promos about pretending to be something that you're not.
Love this storyline. I think it's a lot of fun. Luchasaurus has struggled being apart from Jungle Boy. I feel like on the one hand, it sucks that he's kind of in the background, but I don't know what else they would be doing with him at this point, and I think putting him with Christian is the best thing that they could do. So Luchasaurus is wrestling Darby Allin for the TNT Championship, and I believe if Darby wins, this will be his third TNT title reign. I believe
so.
I think
that's
I believe
right.
that's correct. And then yes, so some people have joked that perhaps this is where we see Adam Copeland. I mean, obviously there's contract stuff that he may not act. Well, it's September now. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's possible. Who knows? I mean, it could all be a work.
It could be, but maybe. Oh, last night I tweeted because Christian said now and forever, and I was like, oh, he said now and not, clearly not the then, but now and forever. I was like, Adam Copeland to AEW confirmed.
That is so funny that you said that. I was like, oh, somebody's a little too used to finishing off their promo. I was like, oh, well, he did it for it's like when you answer your home phone because you like answer the phone at work so much, you answer your home phone the same way you do at work because you're so used to it. That came off to me like he cut his promo and he was so used to doing it for all those years that he just accidentally.
I'm surprised he didn't say to subscribe for $9.99.
He just accidentally dropped back into his like WWE thing because he was like in a zone.
His brain dropped back into it.
It was like a total just brain fart kind of deal.
It says watch Edge come out in a turtleneck. He has to.
That would be awesome, actually.
I need Adam Copeland in a turtleneck.
If he did that, that would be awesome.
I would be all for that. Somebody said that I wonder how many people will actually watch All Out, seeing how All In was last week. That's a really good question.
I have a better question. How many people will pay for All Out?
Fair.
Because I bet you a lot more people will be watching.
To watch the website. I mean, to watch the pay-per-views. We're not condoning anything. We're just saying that there are things called VPNs, and there are things out there. Most people are aware of this. That's not a secret.
Because I mean, they used to track those numbers for things like Game of Thrones, where it was like, you could be making this much money because this many hundreds of thousands of people pirated your stuff. Like in this case,
and now they want to like clamp down on it, and we're like, then people just aren't going to care. Daza said, "I ordered the all." See, he got all the 2023 pay-per-views on a fight package in advance, so I'll be watching. Yeah, we don't have that option.
We don't have that.
We don't get those things, so we have to pay. And so luckily, I have a friend who buys the pay-per-view. He buys the pay-per-views, and then I go in half with him. Smart. So that we can watch. And so that's the only way we're watching. That's how we watch the AEW pay-per-views, because sometimes it's just not in the budget because bills and stuff. So it's helpful to have a friend that I can split things with and go in half. Nikki said, I'm ready to see Zaddy Christian and his turtleneck. Me too. I'm always Christian. I have been a fan of his for a very long time. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like Luchasaurus retains because you got to keep the Christian gimmick going.
I think that Christian gimmick's going to keep going. I think
but then you got the stuff.
Somebody's going to get involved.
Then you got the Darby stuff. I'm sure Nick Wayne's going to be out there. He was talking about his mother wanting to slide into her DMs.
Yeah.
This man is a menace. He is a menace, but I love it. I love Christian.
Right, I'm going to put up this one next. Let's go with this one right here.
This is the match that I have been waiting for. This is the match I was hoping would get on the All Out card. So this is for our audio listeners. This is Samoa Joe versus Shane Taylor for the ROH World TV Championship. This is a dream match for a lot of people who watch ROH, especially a lot of people who are Shane Taylor fans. This is the epitome of a mean man match, as my good friend Jeter would say. It's also the epitome of big meaty men slapping meat. Like, this match is way up in my alley. I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. Shane Taylor is one of the most underrated wrestlers out there. He was a previous TV champion in ROH. He's arguably one of the best 6-man champions in ROH history. Samoa Joe obviously is amazing. He a few weeks ago, he surpassed to become the second longest reigning television champion in ROH history.
Cool.
He is just a few months shy of overtaking his former protege Jay Lethal to become the all-time champion. If he is to win tonight, I believe, if I did my math right, math is not my subject. Clearly writing and grammar and the English language are my thing, not math. But I believe it will be sometime in November that he would surpass that if he is able to retain here. So I'm just really hyped for this match. I can't wait for this.
I know a lot of people didn't know about this one. Like, I didn't know about this build, and I know it was an ROH build thing, but I know a lot of people that were ROH fans were very excited about this, and I'm like, you know what? I trust my ROH fans.
Yeah,
friends,
and so they did, as we have talked about before, Tournament Tony had struck again. So at Death Before Dishonor, to give you a little bit of background, there was a tournament to find a number one contender for Samoa Joe at Death Before Dishonor. Dalton Castle was the winner of that. That's how he found his opponent. Literally a week later, Tournament Tony struck again to make a number one contender for the TV title again. We just didn't know when this match was going to happen. They had been building it. Then obviously we knew because he was doing the stuff with CM Punk to get the All Out match. Then Stokely Hathaway is a ROH board of director. He's under Samoa Joe's thumb. It does Samoa Joe's bidding. And so like Dalton Castle is like mad that he's in this. And so they ended up being like Stokely and Samoa Joe wrestled the boys. They just made the match. And Dalton Castle's like, how does this help me at all? And they were like, it doesn't. And then the match just happened. So they did that match like 2 weeks ago. And so I was like, well, hopefully Shane Taylor, this match would have been fine for a Thursday night, but I'm glad that Shane Taylor is getting the spot. He is somebody who has earned it. And I have nothing but good things to say about him. And this is a dream match that a lot of fans have wanted. And I'm so glad that they're getting a pay-per-view spot for it. I hope it gets some time. I hope Shane Taylor impresses a lot of people. I hope a lot of people who are not familiar with Shane, I hope they walk away as a fan of his. And I do think Samoa Joe retains. I think they are going to try to get him to surpass Jay Lethal. However, that you cannot go wrong with Shane Taylor having any type of title. Nikki said, yes. Nikki said Stokes tweets about Joe being Joe's best BFF are fantastic. Yeah, Stokely is very good.
Some people know how to use Twitter.
He is very good at it, and he's so funny. Yeah, Nikki said she can't wait for this match. I love Joe, but I need Shane Taylor to win. Yeah, again, nice. I would not be mad if Shane Taylor wins here. He said, I knew there was something he was close to achieving, so I take that back. I need Joe to surpass Lethal. Yeah, me too.
There you go.
It needs to happen. Yeah, and I think Jay Lethal, not Jay Lethal, I think Samoa Joe already is he's the longest reigning. There's some other title that he's the longest reigning champion, I believe. So that would make 2 that he's the which makes sense considering how much he means to ROH. So
right on. All right, I'm gonna put up this one next.
Okay, so the ROH World Tag Team Championship match, obviously better than you, baby, or I just refer to them as the Brochachos. They clearly won those titles off of Aussie Open last week. Then Friday night, there was a battle royale to name a number one contender. Still very mad that Workhorsemen were not in that tournament. Especially because they've been killing it in ROH and they've been getting some really good matches. And I was very mad that they were not in there. But they will be wrestling John Silver and Alex Reynolds for this match. I will give you, since this is our ROH title, for people who are not watching ROH, the reason this makes sense that they are doing Dark Order here is because they have been in ROH pretty often. They have been facing the Righteous, and the Righteous were also in this match. They basically were having custody over who Sue Grayson was friends with. The Righteous came calling for Sue Grayson. Evil Uno tried to put a stop to it. Stu Grayson did not like that they were speaking out on his behalf. So that pushed him towards the Righteous. He's been doing stuff with them. when Dark Order has had matches, though, he has come and like stood at the top of the ramp and has been watching what they've been doing. So this is a story that's been playing out ROH. They have definitely, Dark Order has kind of, they are sick of losing basically, and they have gone back to the Dark Order from the beginning before they became beloved because of Mr. Brody Lee's passing. They want to go back to what Mr. Brody Lee had in mind in the beginning, and that they were these powerful people who were terrifying, and they were, hard to deal with in the ring, and that you don't want anything to do with them. And so they kind of have been trying to revamp that. And so I think this is a really good spot for them to showcase that. And so storyline wise, for people who keep up with ROH, this makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
So do you have anything you want to add about
no,
this?
I mean, because I don't know a whole lot about but I love Alex. And I love John Silver and Alex Reynolds. So I love their BT stuff. I love their stuff when they were doing when Hangman was their like awesome stepdad. Was all that stuff was when he was like the awesome stepdad for Dark Order. Always so wonderful. Like
I love these dudes.
I like that they're getting a feature. I know a lot of people are like, they're really good wrestlers, and they're wrestling two good wrestlers, and this should be a really good match. I don't see MJF and Cole dropping.
Me either.
Especially after what happened, and certainly because of the story that they were telling in the main event.
Yeah.
I think those tag belts are kind of integral for now.
Right. And I do like one of the things that Evil Uno has been kind of hyping this match. He was like, what has MJF ever wrestled in ROH? Which is no. When's the last time Adam Cole has done anything for ROH? So I like that Dark Order kind of has that, like, we have been down there. We have been working. We've been built. People don't take us seriously anymore. So we've been putting in the work. We have been doing this stuff, which I think is so I really like this match as far as like, I like that Silver and Reynolds are in this position, even though I don't think they're winning, but I think it will do a lot for them. And I think this
a little get back with Adam Cole there.
Yeah. And they brought up, because last night on Collision, they brought up the stuff about how Adam Cole is Budge.
Bailed on them.
Like we've talked about this many times. Adam Cole has many different boyfriends. They are, at some point or another, there is always one or two boyfriends fighting over him.
Seriously, everyone is always fighting over Adam Cole.
Which is why I suggested like a year ago that they need to have an Adam Cole on a pole match.
Seriously. Dark Order versus Roddy and Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah. So now there's MJF. And there's always something. So
right.
Yeah. Christian says, I don't think that Cole and MJF will lose the titles till possibly Red Dragon, possibly Fish and O'Reilly come back. I don't think they're going to bring back Bobby Fish. I would hope that they wouldn't, but I'm just ready for Kyle O'Reilly to come back.
Kyle O'Reilly, I would love to see him.
Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy would love that.
That could be a good.
I'm always like all about when and Kyle O'Reilly posted a story yesterday, and it was him like working out, like, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't know if he's preparing for clearly preparing for a comeback regardless, but I don't know where he is in his recovery process. Like, is he coming? Is he coming back now? Will it be at Winter is Coming? Will it be next year? Will he come back at Wrestle Dream? I don't know where he's coming back at. Maybe he comes back at Final Battle in December. I don't know. Can you blame them? Have you seen Adam Cole's blue eyes? I have. They are definitely hypnotizing. I understand why he has many boyfriends and why they always fight over him.
So my last picture is the main event. So do we want to fill in the?
I'll fill in some stuff on the card first. So we talked about these two, that one. Oh, there's not really that many. Okay. So in one of the I guess I'll just go down our list of what we've got. So now we do know that Ricky Starks will be in a strap match. He had originally been calling for the Dragon, as in Ricky Steamboat, is who he was talking about. And people were complaining like immediately, I don't want to see 70-year-old Ricky Steamboat in the ring. First of all, Ricky Steamboat can do whatever he wants.
Well, yeah.
I assumed when this announced there was going to be a surrogate in his place like they did with Jerry Lynn and RVD. Like I figured that, but then somebody showed a clip of him wrestling last year against Jay Lethal. The man can still go if he needed to. And Nikki says that it is because Ricky Steamboat is unproblematic, that he is still in great shape and can still kick ass if he needs to because he is an unproblematic man. Which I would agree with. But then, so last night we get he's like, some people know me as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Some people know me as Ricky Steamboat. Some people know me as Ricky Steamboat the Dragon. He opens the contract and it says the Dragon. And I was like, Danielson's not cleared yet. He's not supposed to be back till maybe Full Gear. Nikki's like, what if it's Shingo? And I was like, I will lose. I had my laptop from where I'd been writing was still in the bed. I was like, this laptop might get broken because I will lose my shit. If Shingo comes out right now, I will lose my mind. And then we hear the familiar music of one American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, who swerved everybody. And is back. Doc Samson tweeted during the segment that he was cleared. We don't know how cleared he is. We don't know if he's 85%, 100%, 72%. We don't know where he is. We know that he can at least compete in a strap match where he probably won't have to do too much, get super physical. I mean, obviously a strap match is physical, but he's not gonna do like Zack Sabre Jr. holds.
Yeah.
While he's out here. So what are your thoughts about this match?
This is a tricky one because it's his first match back, but I feel like they want to put Ricky Starks over, so maybe he should take this one.
Yeah.
And start a feud with Danielson.
That would be fun. Yeah, Ricky Starks.
Because there's a lot of like Brian Danielson's part of BCC, so
yeah.
I mean,
that's
there's all kinds of people that they can feud with, or like have just the B plots around that.
Yeah, Ricky. They can have Ricky go through all of the have to wrestle each one of them.
They're gonna need their younger guys like Ricky Starks to really step up at this moment. So I think that this is the best time for.
And I think that Ricky is somebody who can handle that. Ricky
he definitely can. He's great on the mic, but he's really improved in the ring.
Yeah.
And that was one of his shorter comings, in my opinion, that he has improved. So I feel
he's
good
got
about
a great
him.
character. Like he's so good at he's just naturally exudes like charisma and Ricky's just
I mean, there could be shenanigans.
Ricky is somebody who can be the total package. Like he's putting it he's already really good. And I think once he puts it all together and really comes into himself and is given the opportunities, and they don't stop and start him like Wardlow and Powerhouse and things like that. Like if they really just let him extend the leash on him and let him go, I think that Ricky Starks could be somebody that is huge for AEW, especially within the next few years. I mean, I think he'll make a mark now, but he's somebody that you can see 3 years from now, he's going to be the guy. That's a guy that's going to sell your t-shirts and he's going to sell your merch, and kids are going to start dressing up like Ricky Starks with the shades and the chain and the loose shirt and stuff. He's somebody that I can
doing the
see.
pose.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. People are already, kids are already hitting poses. It's funny. Amanda Huber always posting her, Brody, it always is hitting the Ricky Stark pose. Yeah. I mean, the pose.
I caught myself doing it the other day because I was like, I need to practice my best friend's wedding. One of my best friends is getting married coming up. I wanted to do funny wrestling poses in his pictures because I know that he'll appreciate them.
Well, you have to hit the Ricky Stark.
So I'm going to have to hit, but I got to practice because I'm not that good at it. So I always picture my neighbors looking over and being like, what the fuck is that girl? I'm glad she's nice and that she takes care of her yard.
There you go.
All right, let's see.
I'll go down the list over here.
Yeah.
We had okay, so this was the match that
Kenny and
it's Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita. Okay. This is a match that obviously could main event anywhere. Tony Khan actually talked about this on the media call some. He was saying that this is a match that like people, he's like, I know people wanted this on All In. He was like, I just really felt like All Out needed something like this. This is a match I wanted. This is the match that Kenny has wanted for a long time. He was like, he's told me about Takeshita and how great he is and about, their story and, all this stuff. So this has been a match this is basically Kenny's match. This is, he's doing it for Kenny. And then of course, now we have the background story with Don Callis and how Don Callis essentially traded Kenny Omega in for a newer, hotter, younger model who has not just come off of like 7 different surgeries and things like that. Yeah, so this is going to be a really great match.
It's going to be great. I've been waiting for this match. I'm very excited for this match. I'm ready for this match to happen. I do think that this would be a great time for Takeshita to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I would agree. Yeah, I know people who complain about Kenny has not been doing as many singles matches lately. I think there's probably a reason for that.
But you can make a star out of like Kenny losing doesn't hurt Kenny. And
no, not at all
in this case, and it really does help. Like,
well,
Takeshita's had that chronic like loss thing that they like don't let him win.
Yeah, and then they also kind of got away because they were doing the really cool thing where it reminded me of the stuff they did with Kenny in Japan, where Takeshita was cutting promos in Japanese and the fans were booing him. But when Kenny was a heel in New Japan, he would only speak in English in front of the fans. And that was and they've gotten away from that. And I hope that especially because he is with Don Callis, I think that's a really like they had all this momentum and it kind of stopped with Takeshita, which they have a problem with starting and stopping with people. That's been a thing we've seen it with Wardlow. We've seen it with Powerhouse Hobbs. We've seen it in a lot of cases play out. So I think that Takeshita needs the win here. I think it helps. It goes along with the Don Callis story that he's telling with the Don Callis family. It will help if Takeshita can pin Kenny Omega. That's got to help recruitment.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the like story that they're trying to tell.
And
those two, I mean, it's like the big secret to everybody is like those two wrestled each other like a million times because of where they're from. So
and so Takeshita getting put over by our unproblematic king. Yes, and then and it says I think Shida is learning English, or Takeshita is learning English, and Shida and Riho are. Yeah, I think so too. Which is great. But I do, if for the character wise, I like that they have him speak in Japanese to basically piss off some Freesis fans because it goes back into, I think it's just a page out of Kenny's playbook from when he was a heel in Japan and would only speak English, and I really like that, and I'd like to see them get back to that. But yeah, I think Takeshita wins here. I think he has to. I don't necessarily think a loss would hurt him, but obviously a win would benefit him way more. And along with the story that they're telling. So I see Takeshita winning here. Let's see before we go to the pictures. Oh, okay. This is the random. This also seems like a thrown together match as well. We have the Young Bucks who just lost to FTR last week, teaming up against Bullet Club Gold, which is obviously Switchblade Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Ass Boys. Who have become the 4 of them. I believe people call them the Collision Cowboys, and I think that's a perfect name for them. They are a lot of fun. I still am not completely sold on the guns yet, but I'm getting character wise, they're a lot of fun. They're
growing. They are growing.
They need a little, they've got to get, but I mean, you only are going to get that when you're in the ring, and they're going to be in the ring with some of the very best. And so I think this match, it feels random, but it is what it is. They needed to get some stars on here. And I believe I saw that this will be, the Young Bucks have been on every single AEW pay-per-view. Chris Jericho is not on this pay-per-view. And this ends his streak of being on, I believe it was 20 straight pay-per-views was the stat that I saw this morning. So as the Young Bucks are the only ones who have been on every single pay-per-view, and they will continue that tradition today. Or I'm pretty sure that was the stat that I saw. So
interesting.
This is the Guns have been have only been working a couple years. They are AEW homegrown. Yeah, they definitely like, because I was watching Dark and and Elevation. I watched every single episode. And they're kind of the sort, like the Acclaimed came from there. Like the Acclaimed spent a lot of time. They were doing single stuff. Then they got Tony put them together. They did a lot of stuff. And then so the Guns spent a lot of time on the YouTube show, becoming who they are. They didn't work the indies or anything like that. Yeah. So, they are literally the definition of homegrown. Like they have definitely, and they've come a long way. I will definitely give them that. They've got, they're coming together, and you can't, working with Juice and Jay, those are two incredible people to learn from, not just in the ring, but on the mic. Clearly, like Jay is great. Jay's
a star.
Jay is Mel and I are huge Jay White fans. I have been a huge Juice Robinson fan for years. He and Austin play really well together because they're very similar. Their characters are very just loud and crazy and outgoing all the time. So they definitely feed off of each other. So I think it can be something that's really good. The more that they, as they keep going. So yes, but I don't know. I kind of expect. I think I expect Bullet Club Gold to get the win here. I think that they are.
But I'll go with that. I'll go with the Bucks just to be different.
Okay,
I'll do that. I'll just take the Bucks to be.
There you go.
Just to be contrarian. That's fine.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. And then I think the last match on here that you don't have a graphic for is a match that involves an ROH champion and a New Japan champion, but the titles are not on the line. So New Japan's, I believe it's New Japan's strong open weight champion.
Yes.
I believe I got those.
Yes, you're correct. Okay. Because Bob and I were talking about it. Yes.
Yes, that is Eddie Kingston's title.
I didn't know he had a belt at all, and then we made sure.
And then Katsuyori Shibata is the ROH Pure Champion, and they will be facing the Blackpool Combat Club, which will be Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. Claudio is the ROH World Champion, and so.
And this match, Eddie and Claudio still going after it, but there being all this subplot with Eddie and Moxley.
And then, like we see, like last week, Eddie's calling for Claudio from the ring. Claudio just ignores him completely. And then, so last night, Eddie was like, "I see you ignoring me because you're scared of me. I'll take that title from you. You got lucky when you beat me the last time." And then we talked about it before. So Shibata has been using, he did the ROH, he did the Death Before Dishonor media scrum, and he was talking via a translator app. And so he would type it in, and then he'd
pull it up to the microphone. Hilarious. Yeah.
And so he accepted a match that way. Following week, he held it up. So then last night, Eddie's doing his Eddie stuff and promoting the match, and then he asked Shibata, he said, "Do you have anything to say?" And Shibata holds up his translator, and it said, "You guys suck."
You guys suck.
And that made Eddie just cackle.
It was amazing. It made me cackle.
Me too.
I was perfect. Like, that's the best Google Translate ever. It's never been that good before in his life.
Yeah, I really like this. I'm gonna go with Eddie and Shibata here.
I think so too.
How could you? Nothing against Claudio and Wheeler, who I love,
but I think it keeps the Eddie John Moxley subplot going too.
Yeah, and I think Shibata, like, you can't just Shibata. It's the wrestler. You gotta have him there. Yes, I did know that Shibata isn't in. Well, he's not wrestling in. He's done with the dojo. He did come to New Japan to do an autograph signing. I don't know that he's doing in-ring stuff anymore, but he does still have a relationship with them, because at the last pay-per-view he did a meet and greet thing with fans. He did say in the scrum, in the media scrum for Death Before Dishonor, that he is done with the LA dojo. He is no longer associated with them. So we do know that.
I think most of it is that they won't let him wrestle, and AEW will.
Right.
New Japan, they don't want the liability and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
And AEW has cleared him. So I think that, and he wants to wrestle because he sees all the other guys around just like him that are doing it. So
right. Yeah. So there is some sort of relationship, but I think it's more of, will you come do an appearance and meet the fans? You don't get to wrestle, but so
hopefully
I think
there's no heat there, but
it doesn't seem like it because this was literally like just a few weeks ago. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit, but it is what it is. So I believe that's every match on the card, except for now we have the graphic for the main event.
Have another graphic.
Yay!
The main event.
So the main event is Orange Cassidy putting his title on the line against Jon Moxley. Some people have questioned why Jon Moxley did not challenge Orange Cassidy. So this actually played out in the media scrum last Sunday. I did see this before I lost power. So Orange Cassidy said he's talking to Tony. He's out there answering questions, and he's like, well, I feel that this is weird that this is a international show and I'm not defending my title. Like that feels weird to me. I should be defending an international title on an international show. And he was like, so Tony gave him whatever reason, and he was like, I think you should. He's like, well, this Wednesday, he's like, I made a match for you on Dynamite this week. Do you want me to tell you who it is? Well, about that time, Penta comes strolling in. So he was like, well, this is your opponent. So they do their little thing to their little 2-second build of a match. And then Orange says to Tony, he was like, I have pinned Wheeler Yuta twice, and I have pinned Claudio twice. I want Jon Moxley. And Tony was like, well, you have to wrestle Penta first. Like, you can't just call out Jon Moxley when you have Penta. And he was like, so let's do this. Whoever wins on Wednesday will get to face Moxley at All Out. So that's how they built it. So that's how they got to this. So that's how they built it. They built it on the scrum. This is the reasoning behind it. Orange called out Jon Moxley. Tony said, no, you have to wrestle Penta first. And here we are. So what are your thoughts about this one?
I know a lot of people think Moxley's going to take the belt. And if you were going to have the belt come off of Orange right now, it would have to go to somebody like Moxley.
Sure.
But here's my big fat butt for all y'all. My big bold prediction.
I'm right here with you.
This is a great way to continue to elevate the international championship and Orange Cassidy, who they need to be a big star. And I do believe that they will have a fantastic match and Jon Moxley will not come away the winner.
Yeah. One of the reasons
I think that Orange is keeping this belt, and I think that they're doing this with Moxley because of elevating the belt more and elevating Orange more. And they also need Jon Moxley to be their Okada right now, probably.
Again, what I said, I've told this to a couple people, Jon Moxley is not getting that 6-week vacation anytime soon.
I think it's another one of those
knock on wood, the only way this man gets a vacation is if he has to have surgery.
I think the match is going to be freaking phenomenal. I think it will
make the belts. Says a lot about what they think about Orange Cassidy to put him in the main event.
Completely.
We know Jon Moxley is a main event star.
Right.
We know this. Orange Cassidy, the way that he has been this champion, he has elevated it. And not to say that Pac was not a great champion, because he was. Of course. Pac is amazing. I love him. And somebody did actually ask, like, we've seen Pac defend this title in other countries, like in other promotions in England and other places. It's an international title. Will you defend it internationally? And he was basically like, it depends on what Tony says. And then that's how the conversation started about Jon Moxley. And they kind of moved away from that. But I think it says a lot about Orange Cassidy. Another reason I think Orange Cassidy will win, they put up on the graphic last week when he came out that he had been champion for 312 days. At this point, you're that close to a year.
365.
There is no point. I think he'll get to the year mark, probably hold it even longer. Possibly at full gear, maybe he drops it. That I could see that happening. But it does have to be a big name, I think, that you drop it.
You put it on somebody that's like building, though. I think that you save it for something like Jon Moxley's a made man. Like, you save it for somebody who's on their way up. Maybe Ricky Starks is at the point where he's ready.
Sure. It kind of reminds me, now that you say that, it kind of reminds me of the New Japan TV title with Zach. You
Yeah,
put it
there you
on
go.
Zach has made that belt because he's the only champion, but Zach has wrestled a lot of up and coming talent to see what they can prove against him. That belt is one of my favorite. You and I have talked about how much we love that belt, how much we love the matches that come along with it. Zach actually defended it last week on ROH. He wrestled Metalik for the title.
Oh, I bet that was really good.
Yeah, it was great. And so
on paper, I'm like, oh, that's got to be totally awesome.
It was really
very
great.
watchable.
It was a great match. I love Metalik. And I like that it forces Zach to wrestle
different.
On the one hand, it forces his opponents to wrestle Zach's matches, but in a situation with a Metalik, it forces Zach to how do you keep a high flyer on the mat? Like, how do you keep and having to work with that. And so I think I really like that. And Nikki said, I'm loving everything they're doing with Orange. Me too. I really like the injury angle that they're playing with him where he has to keep fighting through the hand injury. Maybe they do a rematch with Swerve. That Orange Cassidy versus Swerve was probably the best match for this title I think that I've seen. That match was phenomenal. I understand people being upset with Swerve not winning there. I knew that they were going to keep it on Zach at least through, because that was before Forbidden Door. So I was like, well, they're not going to have Zach drop it before. I mean, not Zach, Orange drop it before Forbidden Door. And so I could see maybe Swerve gets a rematch and maybe Swerve wins it. Like Swerve, I think, would be a phenomenal international champion. So they could do somebody like you said, they could do somebody like that who, or a Ricky Starks, or, maybe
when they're starting to hit their stride,
maybe even a Wardlow or a Miro. You could do something like that, and somebody who needs it. Somebody said they think Mox will bleed. Yes,
it's an excellent prediction.
I think that I think the day comes where he doesn't bleed in a pay-per-view match, something might be wrong.
He might be bleeding already.
Yeah. Grace said I repeat, Orange will win. Zach's belt says, I think Zach's belt looks like a potato. Yeah, it's a very interesting looking belt, but thank goodness the matches at least succeed with them.
They a little goofy.
The title
it goes,
like.
He makes everything, Zach makes everything punk rock, even if it's dorky.
Yeah, this is true.
Like that.
I'm sure that George Michael would tell him that he looks great with that belt. Him and Prince.
He knows.
So I believe that concludes all of the matches, unless anything else gets added. I don't think there will be. I think this is it. So it should be a really good show. Do you have any sleeper matches or any hot takes you want to add before we peace out of here?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I think we've covered everything. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about the stuff that we did, and that we had a good fun show and didn't talk about all the other stuff, so you can listen to everyone else talk about. I'm actually I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty excited for the show. I definitely want to stick around for I'm gonna see if I can stay awake for James and Kevin, because I do like watching those
if you are not familiar with James and Kevin from the Boom, those two are a lot of fun.
What's wrong with you?
They have been covering Dynamite from day one. They are so much fun together. I cannot wait for their takes. It will be live on this YouTube shortly after the pay-per-view. We will remind you on Twitter. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, then you will definitely see that.
And if you subscribe and hit the bell, it will notify you when they go live, so you won't have to wait around and be like, "Are they going live?" Because it'll just say, "Hey, you're going live." And
we do have a question here about Billy Corgan's reason for not doing another Empower. He said there wasn't enough of him. That's a bullshit answer, and he knows it. We're trying to get at it. We will be here. If I tell you all of that, what I think of, if I give you a more detailed, we'll be here for another 45 minutes. And
we'll have to have an NWA conversation next week.
But it's a bullshit answer, and he knows it. This is here. We say thanks, guys, to feeling after everything. I was feeling low on All Out, but I'm feeling pretty excited. I'm glad. Good. Yeah, good. I think there's going to be some cool stuff.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it is kind of their signature show. We should.
They typically have I'm curious if someone shows up, because sometimes it feels like they're All Out is when maybe they have a return. Maybe Kyle O'Reilly comes back. I'm just gonna guess Kyle O'Reilly. I'm gonna guess Kyle O'Reilly every week till he comes.
I mean, that seems like the right one. I mean, it would be fun. It's a feel-good comeback.
Yeah. And
If he's
would be
ready,
perfect
I
for
mean,
the
I want
story-
him
the story
healthy.
They're telling, maybe Adam Copeland comes. We don't know what his
Maybe.
contract status is. Supposedly that done till sometime in September. Or maybe we're just being told that, so it throws us off. Maybe it's somebody we're not. Maybe Jade comes back. Maybe Ricky Starks is managing
Maybe
her.
Shaq comes in there and faces off with
Maybe
Dennis
Shaq
Rodman.
finally emerges from the ambulance, because he got in the ambulance and we never saw him again, but now he sees that Dennis Rodman is here and he ain't having that. Maybe
I mean, maybe Hangman showing up for something is because Hangman's not even on this show. So.
Yeah, so maybe
No Hangman anywhere. No Hangman.
Maybe Hangman does something. He could.
Maybe.
So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. I'm looking forward to the show. Again, next week I will be here, but Mel will be she will be doing IRL things.
IRL dorky
that
things.
don't involve pro wrestling. Sometimes we need to get a break.
I will still be doing carny stuff, just different carny stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a couple people have said maybe Monet comes. She is injured. Daza says maybe they announce a deal with her. Like
nice.
Anything could happen at this point. Well, I would not be. Then we will tune in. So me and Kela Cash will talk about it next week. We will do a recap of what happened, and hopefully next week is a little bit more calm. But every time, knock on wood, because every time I say that, something happens.
Wrestling. What a wild world.
So maybe next week all I talk about, and maybe all I get to talk about, is the wrestling I'm watching. Maybe I have some more indie stuff to tell you. I do have to finish GCW. I watched half of it Friday night. Got to see a really good speedball match. Got to watch speedball again last night. Got to see Mance Warner last night and Friday night. I got to see.
Maybe it'll be really boring and you guys can just talk about General Hospital.
Yeah. This is true. We could, because General Hospital got some things going on, and Kela will have. Yeah, we could go into a topic that might be another thing. I know she has her soap opera podcast. I was gonna say maybe we can do a tier for that.
Seriously.
But she has her own thing. But yeah, so Kela Cash will be here next week. We'll probably be talking about wrestling, maybe a little bit of a soap operas, because wrestling is basically the same thing as a soap opera.
I mean, it's the same. It's always the same thing.
Nikki says she'll have to join the show then if we talk about General Hospital. Yes, because Nikki and I watched General Hospital together. But yes, so we will be here. I will be here next week. Mel will be here in spirit. We do have some other cool stuff lined up for you guys, and make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and to the Patreon. And I believe, unless you've got anything else you want to add, we can free these people.
We are out of here. You guys have a great week. Thank you for all of your support.